The story begins at the moment when the main character appears in front of a large ball that shimmers in green and yellow. When making a bet, he makes one wish, after which he stretches out his hand to him. Leon touches the ball, and an inscription with a class called Sage appears on it. Then he makes a wish to change the class, however. Due to unsatisfactory conditions, the class change does not occur. After that, the plot line is transferred to the tavern building. Leon enters a room where there are a lot of people and finds the one he was looking for among the occupied tables. The leader of the Wolf Fang Sword team, a holy knight and just a wolf, notices him and asks how everything went. The hero reports that he screwed up, and then the wolf decides to do as they agreed, after which he informs that he is now fired. When he hears this, he is shocked. Leon begins to beg the leader to change his mind about his decision, and asks him to do anything but that. The wolf recalls that Leon said that if he could not change his class to an average 1, then he could be fired. He begins to beg the leader for the opposite, and promises to do whatever he is asked to do, even though the fee is reduced. Suddenly, he is interrupted by a girl who assumes that the hero already knows that he will only interfere with them. She turns out to be a celestial archer named Rebecca. Then another fighter, a great magician named Lloyd, agrees with her. He says that they cannot move forward protecting Leon, and therefore hopes for their understanding on his part. Suddenly, Chelsea enters the conversation, whose class is a killer. He wonders why the hero can't already understand his limit and finally stop. Then Leon asks with the last hope what they will do without his help in carrying luggage and recovering, and notices that there are not many people who will agree to do this. Then he reminds him that his swordsmanship skills are also quite good, but the wolf tells him that they have already taken care of it. He says that he has already found someone for these tasks, and then Rebecca asks Noelle to say hello to the hero, who is about to leave. A little girl approaches Leon, suggesting that it would be better to say goodbye. She then introduces herself as a priest named Noelle, and tells him that she was pleased to meet him. The girl says she knows who he is and tells him that the hero failed, calling him a red magician, which causes him to be shocked. She then asks if it is true that he has reached the limit not only in his class, but also in general assignments. The hero replies that and tells him that he's at level 20 as a carrier, when suddenly Noelle starts laughing. She notices that this is an increase in the basic level to the limit, and says that this is not something an adventurer can be proud of. However, the hero screams that the storage skill is very useful, when suddenly the wolf replies that bags can be used. After that, he repeats that there is no place for Leon in the Wolf Fang Sword. And then Leon finds nothing better than to get down on the ground and bury his head in the floor. He begins to beg to be left behind, promising that he will be more efficient in purchasing supplies and equipment, as well as in delivery missions. Even though he has never done this before, Chelsea suddenly screams that Leon is already an adult and still humiliates himself in front of them. From this reaction, the wolf clicks with displeasure. He reports that they can easily order someone to purchase supplies, as they are not so poor as to bargain prices. Then the wolf decides to deal with the delivery point and notices that he has not yet allowed the hero to do this. The scream makes him shrink violently. Suddenly, the wolf grabs Leon by the shoulder and says that they dragged him along for 2 years, asking if this fact is not enough for him. Then he goes into a whisper and asks the hero to let them go already. After that, Leon remains lying on the floor and shaking. Rebecca notices this and jokingly asks if he is crying, calling him a child. Suddenly, Chelsea announces that she will go first, seeing that the situation is awkward. At this time, Noelle begins to laugh and ask if the hero is not an adult, but Lloyd asks her not to laugh, as this is disrespectful. Then Leon decides to ask to be left and inform that he is included in the list of candidates, and that he needs to fulfill the requirements. But the wolf calls it useless. Then he screams, assuming that he will continue until he fulfills all the requirements, and asks how many jobs he thinks there are, hinting that their number is very limited. The hero just remains silent, trying to contain his emotions. Then the wolf suggests that he calm down and sit down. Then he announces that they are leaving, and Leon is a little surprised by this. Suddenly, a waitress comes up to the table with food in her hands, who apologizes for the delay. The wolf informs them that they are leaving this city. He then asks Leon to enjoy the treat, when suddenly Leon tries to stop him to go with him. However, no one listens to him anymore. Suddenly, Rebecca turns to him and remembers that he took care of her from the very beginning. She expresses her gratitude for this. This makes the hero a little embarrassed. Suddenly, Noel smilingly remarks that the food may get cold if he doesn't eat it quickly, asking if he understands it. After that, Lloyd assumes that they will still be able to meet again sometime if he continues to be an adventurer, hoping that they will be able to laugh and talk when the time comes. Then the whole team turns around and is about to leave. Suddenly, the wolf stops and decides to turn around to address Leon, asking him to take care of himself. These words bring tears to the hero's eyes, and he finally decides to thank them for everything they gave him. After that, the hero finishes the meal, leaving the plates empty, and goes to the guild building, where there is quite a considerable number of people. He approaches the reception desk, and the girl notices that today is an unusual day, since Leon himself comes here. The hero awkwardly agrees with her, scratching his head. Suddenly, she happily assumes that he confesses his love to her, not believing in what is happening. In response, he just starts laughing and mentally notices that she is as cheerful as always, calling her Miriam. Then Leon also notices that even when she is joking, she still remains very sweet. When suddenly the girl is a little surprised by his reaction. Then she decides to tell him that he was fired from the B ranks group, Sword of the Wolf Fang. According to the rules of the Adventurers Guild, the one whose base class is at level 20 will be classified as a temporary D ranks. Miriam informs that the lower threshold will be lower than usual for temporary D ranks, and therefore asks the hero to pay attention to the fact that during this period it is easy to lose your rank, and hands him a statement of payment for providing information. The hero is a little surprised by this and asks her about it again. Suddenly, a sum of 1,000 galvas appears in front of him, and from this, he jumps up and screams. Then, he begins to understand what's going on, and Miriam tells him that this is his reward for providing information so far. Leon asks her again about this time interval, and then she is surprised that he does not know this. In that case, the girl decides to tell him something about the Wolf Fang Sword guys. She remembers that during the blessing of the ball, Leon was a candidate for an unknown class. He remembers the ball and agrees with her. She then adds that at that time, he'd already been paid 10 million galva, since the Sage is an unknown class that is not registered in the guild, and the hero is shocked by such an amount. According to her, since then, every time he failed to change classes after reaching level 15 or 20 in different professions, he was paid 1 million galva. This is a reward for providing so much information that the guild does not possess. Then the hero realizes that from the very beginning, the purpose of the Wolf Fang Sword has always been money, and it becomes clear to him why they did not let him join the guild. He then sums it up by saying that now that all his main professions have reached level 20, he has been kicked out, and it makes him feel even worse. The hero realizes that he has simply stopped being their way of making money easily, and remembers the moment when he began to humiliate himself in front of them. At this time, the girl is watching him and trying to do something. In the end, she decides to turn to him to distract him. She expresses confidence that everything will be fine with the hero, and notes that no other adventurer has achieved to raise the level of all his basic professions to level 20. At this time, Leon remembers Noelle's words when she said that you should not be proud of raising the basic levels to the limit, and begins to get angry. Then he wonders aloud if this is really so funny, which makes the girl start to wonder. Suddenly, the hero screams, asking if it's really so much fun to make a fool of him. But Miriam apologizes to him and says that's not what she meant. Leon concludes that everyone always looks down on him. Then the girl begins to ask him for forgiveness if she offended him, and also to ask him to calm down, when suddenly she is interrupted. The hero pulls out his weapon and uses obscene language, swinging at Miriam. But suddenly someone tells him that a weapon is not a toy to wave around. After that, Leon loses consciousness from the blow. The story is transferred to a slightly different place, where the hero is already lying on the bed. At one point, he opens his eyes, hearing that someone is calling him, and begins to gradually come to his senses. Suddenly, a man looms over him and asks if Leon is awake. The hero grabs a pillow and screams in fright, but still recognizes him as a guildmaster. Seeing that he has come to his senses, the man asks him not to make such a fuss in the guild, because this time he was lucky that something bad did not happen. Leon assumes that he is joking, as he was immediately detained. Suddenly, the master asks if he is the Red Magician in the Wolf group. He immediately agrees with this and says that he is a loser who could not successfully change classes. He then adds that he is now a powerless scout, even though he was left outside the tower. Suddenly the hero is interrupted by a knock on the door, and then the man allows someone to enter. Miriam looks into the room and turns to Leon. She asks if everything is okay with him and apologizes for not thinking about his feelings and dared to talk to him so casually. But in response, the hero notices that he should apologize for losing control. Then the girl tells him that she does not look down on him and asks him to believe her, saying that in no case is she lying to him. But then the hero reports that in any case everything is fine, when suddenly the man calls him a helpless young man. Then he decides to go to the tower in the company of the hero, and, turning around, tells him to follow right behind him. Miriam tries to stop him, asking what he's saying, but the man replies that he cannot ignore this child without worrying about the dangers, and promises to return before sunset. The hero says that it is not necessary to take care of him, when suddenly a man hits him on the head and informs him that this is an order from the guildmaster, asking him to silently follow him and calling him a red magician. After a while, Leon is dressed in special clothes for research, and he notices that he was given old equipment. But in response, the man says that it suits him very well as a red magician. The guys approach the entrance to the tower, where they are met by a guard. He is a little surprised by their appearance, and then the man tells that he needs to deal with the problems of the hero, when suddenly the guardian recognizes him and calls him the Red Magician from the Sword of the Wolf's Fang. Then the master informs him that he needs to understand how good Leon is in battles, since now he is walking alone. Suddenly, the guardian begins to rejoice that the hero has finally left the Wolf Fang Sword team and assumes that he is now happy. After that, the guys are interested in how far Leon can go. The hero tells that he is a temporary D rank, and the guardian explains that he can reach 35, while the temporary D rank is 34s. Then the man decides to start from the 21st floor. The guys teleport to the 21st floor, and immediately after that he asks the hero if he can walk alone to the 30th floor at once. However, seeing his reaction, he then assumes that he had not fought before, which he guesses. Then the man informs that he will save him in case the situation gets out of control, after which the hero enters the battle with more confidence. The goblins start attacking Leon, but he defeats them quite easily with a sword. After a while, the man notices that the hero is showing himself better than expected and draws attention to the fact that they have reached the 25th floor. Then he asks if Leon can use a bullet with different attributes, and Leon replies that he has a level 20 Black Magician. So this is not something surprising. Then, the guildmaster also notes his good swordsmanship and excellent dexterity. In response, Leon says that fighting alone exhausts him, and then the man asks why he does not use support magic. The hero remembers that she is needed for other fighters, and there is an awkward pause in the conversation. The man understands how difficult the situation with Leon's thinking is. After a while, they return, and the guardian is interested in their progress. The man says that Leon got to the 30th floor without anyone's help, and then the guard is surprised that he managed to do it so quickly. Then the man tells that the hero is good at magic, close combat, and knowledge of all floors in this tower. The guardian concludes that he was restrained by a group of wolves, and that he could become popular. But Leon once again reminds him that he is a red magician. Then the guard calls him a reliable guy, but he adds that he has a bad class. However, the guardian begins to convince the hero that he is an important part of the team. Suddenly, he adds that this is how many adventurers in this city think of him, which Leon is very surprised at. The hero says that he rarely goes to the guild, and the guardian is surprised by this. Then he explains that the group told him not to do this, and then the guard concludes that this is a really bad group. After that, the hero thinks about the fact that he chose it himself, since it was what he wanted to do, and therefore calls himself a fool. Suddenly, the man informs him that he has become stronger and notices that not everything in life is bad and expresses gratitude to the guard. He walks forward and says that this will be a new beginning for Leon, after which he decides to treat him to dinner. The guys go to the city, where they walk through the streets, go into one place, and decide to eat and drink right there. After a while, they finish their meal, and the man tells the hero to relax in the stairway to Paradise Massage Parlor and take the first step as a new adventurer. Leon decides to go into this place, and there they change him into a bathrobe, asking him to wait in a separate room. He notices that the massage parlor is a bit strange, as there is an unusual atmosphere there. Suddenly, the door to the room opens, and a girl appears from behind it. She apologizes for the wait and introduces herself as Amiria, the hero's partner for the evening. Then she sits down next to him and confesses that she hopes he will like it. From this, the hero begins to panic and clarifies whether this is exactly a massage parlor. Then Emiria replies that yes, and tells him that her job is to relax stiff bodies, after which she puts her hand under his robe. Then the girl decides to find out his name, and the hero introduces himself as Leon. Emiria notices that this is a very cute name and, seeing how his face turned red, decides to leave the most important part for last. Then she asks to be allowed to relax him first, after which their lips merge into a kiss. The hero assumes that this is an unusual salon, and the girl agrees with him. Emiria assumes that this is Leon's first time in a place like this. Then she realizes even before that it was his first kiss. Realizing that this is true, she concludes that the hero did not want to kiss her for the first time. However, he immediately begins to deny it, and then Emiria asks to provide everything else to her, which he agrees to. After that, she starts kissing him again. Then the girl takes off her robe and offers the hero to take her breasts in his hands. He does so, and then she says that he can touch her as much as he wants. Suddenly, Emiria grabs his hand and pulls him to a place between her legs. Then she assumes that the hero knows what needs to be done, and in response, he notices that the girl is soft and hot. Then she decides to start and immediately accepts it all, after which she begins to move. After a while, Emiria asks if Leon will soon reach the peak of pleasure. She asks him to release everything and convinces him that everything will be fine. Then the girl notices that the hero has released too much liquid, for which he begins to apologize. But Emiria reports that she is actually satisfied and offers to enjoy their night. Then they begin to fall asleep, when suddenly a message appears in front of Leon that all the conditions have been fulfilled, and the time of the sage begins now. The hero receives a message that the conditions have been fulfilled and that the time of the sage has begun. However, he does not understand what kind of sage he is talking about at all, while the girl is already falling asleep on his chest. Suddenly, skills are acquired with a class change to Sage, after which Leon receives improved physical strength, improved mana, improved intelligence, and much more. After a new sensation, the hero begins to examine his body, when suddenly Emiria wakes up and notices that he is ready for intimacy again. Then she decides to do it with him again. Then the girl offers Leon to have fun, to which he agrees. The guys start another round, and after a while the hero notices that Emiria looks tired. He decides to use the ability to relieve her from fatigue, because he feels very good, and he does not want to stop. Then the hero applies the restoration of health, and suddenly the girl is surprised that her strength has returned to her again. In this case, she starts asking Leon to make an effort. Emiria assumes that the hero will soon reach a peak and asks how he feels. He calls this feeling wonderful and wants the girl to feel euphoria too. Then, the hero uses sense enhancement, which causes Emiria to start screaming and lose her mind. Soon they both reach the peak of pleasure. The girl begins to scream that this is impossible and notices that she's experiencing strange and unusual sensations. She then starts asking Leon to stop and calls the situation insanity. Emiria admits that her mind is going crazy from such an obscene scene in his playful hands. Suddenly, she notices that for some reason the hero's arm has become larger, after which it bends in the lower back from sensations similar to an electric shock. After a while, they finish and stay on the bed. The girl notices that a lot of liquid is still coming out of Leon and asks what he is. Then she remembers that all of a sudden her fatigue passed and she became more sensitive. Then the hero tells her that it has to do with magic, and she's surprised by this. Emiria says that she has heard about the use of magic as an aid to intimacy, but thought that combat magic only works in the tower. The hero thinks about the fact that abilities based on acquired skills in the level of combat classes decrease sharply outside the tower, but then remembers that black and white magic cannot be used outside the tower. Then he takes a look at his hand and realizes what the ability of the sage is, assuming that it's all about him. Suddenly, he is distracted by the girl's sigh. She concludes that she is not qualified as a professional, as she was exhausted to the point of exhaustion, despite the fact that her job is to entertain clients. But Leon screams and begins to convince the girl otherwise. He says it was the best intimacy of his life and suggests that from this point of view it is better when they both feel good. Emiria starts laughing and notices that the hero is saying this despite the fact that he was a virgin until recently. This makes him blush, when suddenly the girl adds that she would like to praise him. Leon addresses her in a respectful manner, but Emiria asks him to call her by her first name. Then she turns to him and tells him that she wants more intimacy with him. The hero replies that he wants the same thing, after which his lips merge with the lips of the girl in a kiss. Emiria then asks if he can still use magic, and Leon replies that he can. By this point, the time of the sage is over, but soon it will be activated again, since the Night of the Guys is still going on, despite the fact that the sun has already risen. The hero is about to leave the institution, and Emiria clarifies whether he is going to go to the tower. He confirms her guesses and tells her that his stamina has been restored thanks to rest. Then the girl asks him to come again and promises to wait for him, in response to which he promises her that he will treat her next time. After that, the hero goes to the guild building and remembers the words of the guardian that he will become famous the next day. He wonders why he said that, and then goes inside the building. There he sees a bunch of people and a girl who is outraged to learn that the Wolf Fang Sword is not here. Leon does not understand the context and therefore remains standing and listening. Suddenly, another girl informs her that there is just a member from the Sword of the Wolf's Fang. Her colleague starts asking where he is, and then she points to the hero, saying that he is standing at the door. Then the girl turns to Leon with a serious look and goes to him. She asks if he is the same member of the group that her colleague was talking about. The hero clarifies that he is a former participant, and then another girl remembers that he was kicked out. Suddenly, she comes up to him and calls him a red magician, which makes him a little tense. The girl who made a fuss remembers that she has already heard about the worthless magician in the Sword of the Wolf's Fang, and after these words, the crowd begins to look at the hero in a different way. Suddenly, her colleague starts laughing and remembers that Leon was a temporary member of this guild, but until yesterday, and then the other girl decides that he's useless. Then her colleague decides to invite her to join her Myriad Blooming Flowers team. However, she refuses, since this is a C-Crank team. She says that the team she will join must have a high rank, but the girl notices that her group has the highest rank among those who are here now, and then the other clarifies that the Sword of Wolf Fangs has rank B. Then the girl still continues to insist, after which they both leave. At this point, the hero wonders, what was it all about? When he arrives at the reception, Miriam meets him there, who concludes that Leon had fun last night. Leon gets into an awkward position and realizes that the guildmaster seems to have said something unnecessary to her, but then decides to ask about who the girl who made all this noise was. Miriam tells that it was Lydia, and then the hero remembers that she is a night princess, and that he has heard rumors about her. The girl says that Lydia has been informed that she can join the Wolf Fang Sword when she reaches level 30. She managed to achieve this during yesterday's expedition, and the girl assumes that she's going to do it today. She then assumes that Leon wants to go exploring, and he confirms this by adding that he would like to use the blessing room before that. Miriam remembers that he has already gone there and begins to wonder. The hero says that everything can be different than yesterday, but then he realizes that it's better not to be so arrogant just because it was his first time. Looking at the girl, he assumes that she has also thought about it. After that, he meets with the guildmaster, and he also concludes that the hero was engaged in intimacy until morning. Then, Leon asks him not to say too much to Miriam, remembering how piercing her gaze was. The man apologizes and is interested in the well-being of the hero. Then he notices that he looks like a real man, and Leon assumes that it's all thanks to Emiria. Then the man advises him to be more confident in himself. After that, they go to the place where the class is changed, and the hero receives a message that the class change cannot be performed due to unfulfilled conditions. They conclude that proximity was not enough for this. But then the man suggests that he inform the headquarters about it in order to get 100,000 halva, since this is an unknown class and he will be paid for any detailed information. Leon is shocked by this. Suddenly, the hero begins to worry that Emiria can tell everyone about his problem. But the man calms him down, saying that she does not disclose information about her client in any case. Then Leon concludes that it is better to keep the time of the sage a secret from everyone, but this way he will never know what he really got into. Suddenly, he is distracted by a man. He says that the hero must come again after he does it again, to which he replies that he does not have a partner. Then the man says that Miriam would not agree with this and clarifies whether he will go to investigate. Leon replies that he does, and he asks him to be careful, since the Wolf Fang Sword which always walked on the upper floors is no longer here. In response, the hero smiles and asks if it wasn't just one day without them. The man says that he is a little worried that he trusted them too much in terms of cleaning up and suggests that Leon should still keep this in mind. Then he takes note of it. After that, the hero goes to the reception desk. There Miriam asks him what he wants from this expedition, but at first, he does not answer her. Then she asks about what happened to him, thereby scaring him a little. The girl informs that the hero must inform her about his plan in advance, while he thinks that he is more interested in Miriam herself, since the guildmaster told her strange things. Then he mentally calls her pretty and begins to examine her figure. At this time, the girl tells the hero important information and notices that she is not being listened to. Then Leon replies that he wants to go up from the 31st floor to the 35th. Miriam says that Princess Knight and the Myriad Blooming Flowers team have just started their expedition from the 31st floor and adds that he is focused on speed. Then she completes the registration, while the hero realizes who she was talking about. Then he sets off, and they wish him a safe journey. Leon goes to the tower and uses the fast move to immediately get to the 31st floor. There, goblins immediately start attacking him. The hero uses the lightning bullet skill but defeats only one monster in this way. Then the goblins start attacking him with even more fury. Leon makes a dash forward and pulls out his weapon, after which he flies at high speed past the monsters, dissecting their bodies into two parts. Suddenly, he notices his new abilities, although at first he thought that he had imagined it all for himself. The hero says that when he entered the tower with the guildmaster today, he felt an unprecedented power. Then, he remembers that after changing his class to Sage, he acquired a large number of skills that remained even when the Sage's time was over. After that, Leon takes a look at his hand and uses Sense Enhancement. Then he just stays in place and thinks about something. The hero notices that there are no people or magical animals on this floor, which makes him uncomfortable. Then he unbuttons his fly, thinking that this is done to check the activation of the Sage. Leon remembers that when he first engaged in intimacy with Emiria yesterday, the Sage's time was activated. Then he assumes that ejaculation is needed for this. The hero proceeds to self-satisfaction, thinking that he has increased his pleasure by strengthening feelings. However, when he finishes, nothing happens, even though Leon expected it. Then, he assumes that he just needs to engage in intimacy with anyone, and realizes that if he does it with Emiria again, he will be able to check a lot. But first of all, he must continue his expedition, as he promised to come with the money next time and treat her. After that, he overcomes the 32nd, 33rd, and 34th floors. Finally, the hero gets to the 35th floor, where he enters the battle again, and comes out of it victorious. In one corner, he takes out medicine to heal himself a little. Then he thinks that the climb to the 35th floor has exhausted him, and therefore decides that he needs to return. But suddenly, he is stopped by someone's screams. At the same moment, several girls appear around the corner, one of whom carries a partner on her back and seems familiar to the hero. Leon asks them if everything is okay, but the girl is very surprised at such a meeting. She remembers that the hero is a red magician and begins to beg for him to heal them. He still agrees and uses healing along with the recovery on the injured girl. At this time, a girl he knows is surprised by this and asks how he even knows how to use these two skills. By this point, the victim is already getting better. The hero explains that his white magician is at level 20, which is why the girl is shocked. After that, Leon heals everyone else, and the other guys begin to wonder at such a strong effect. The girl asks if it's just healing, but the hero says that he also used recovery, even though he has a little mana. After a while, the girls are delighted with Leon's abilities and begin to not understand how such a red magician can be so strong. The hero says that his main professions have reached level 20, and therefore he can use them better than the magicians here. A girl he knows is very surprised by this. Suddenly, they are distracted by another girl, who very shyly asks to share water, knowing that she should not ask for more. Then the hero agrees and takes out a barrel of water from the inventory. The girl is surprised by this and asks if Leon is thinking about himself, but he tells her that he has 10 more barrels of water, so everything is fine. This makes her scream, and then the hero adds that his vault is also at level 20, so it can accommodate this. For a moment, the girl falls silent, but then grabs him by the shoulders and starts asking Leon to help them. However, he replies that this is all he can do for them now. Then the girl tells that the princess stayed where they ran away from to help them. The hero is a little surprised, because he thought that they were exploring the territory from the 30th to the 39th floor, and begins not to understand why the Sea Crank team is fighting here. The girl says that after they got to the 37th floor and walked a little further, a monster from the Lord class appeared. This makes Leon scream, because he knows that they usually only appear on the 50th floor of this tower. Then he remembers the words of the guildmaster that the Wolf Fang Sword, which always walked on the upper floors, is no longer here. After which, he decides to ask what kind of monster appeared there. Then the girl tells that this is the vanguard of the Goblin Winners, and that the pack is led by the Goblin General himself. The hero asks if the Goblin Lord really appeared somewhere on the 30 to 39 floors, but then concludes that there is no way for a Sea Crank team, like a myriad of blooming flowers, to fight a Lord-class opponent. Then the girl tells that somehow they managed to defeat the first pack on the 37th floor. However, she did not expect to encounter Lord-class monsters in the area of the 39th floor, and was taken by surprise. At that time, she asked the allies if everything was okay, and they initially replied that yes, but then reported that their weapons had broken and there was not much magic left. Suddenly, another girl ran up to them and informed them that the enemies were still advancing, suggesting that the monsters might be of the Lord class. Then the girl was surprised by what was happening, since they were only on the 37th floor, but then realized that they had no choice but to run. Then she informed the princess that she would cover her, so that she would run first. However, the princess refused, realizing that her friend would not be able to stop the whole pack, and her friends would also be attacked as soon as she was pulled out. Then she informed the girl about it, calling her Rita. Then the princess added that with her halberd she could block enemies in a wider range, and therefore asked to be allowed to cover the others. Rita decided to agree with her, and then left. Then the girls ran downstairs, while the princess joined the battle on the 37th floor. The guys decide to run to the lower floor instead of getting to the safe zone. Suddenly, Rita notices that the princess continues to struggle and asks what she is going to do. The girl promises to join them after she finishes off these monsters, and also asks to call for help, just in case. Rita says that the princess will not be able to do everything alone, and decides to help her. But she notices that her allies will not be able to get to the 31st floor without her. Then the princess turns around and adds that they can't be sure that they won't meet another crowd, which makes Rita freeze for a moment. Then the girl declares that she is the daughter of a lord, for whom it is normal to stand up for people in the city. But Rita reminds them that they are adventurers. The princess replied that the adventurers were not very different from the residents of the city. After that, Rita promised to bring help, after which she left, wishing her ally to stay alive. Then the hero concludes that the princess is still fighting alone with the demon lord, and Rita says that they would only interfere with her there, no matter how pathetic it sounds. She then adds that they also ran out of supplies and magic. After that, she rushes at Leon and starts begging him again to help the princess. Rita says they can even block attacks if needed. Suddenly, Leon refuses to go with them and informs them that he will go there alone. This shocks Rita. Then, the hero turns to another girl and asks her if she will be able to go down to the 32nd floor if she fully recovers. She replies that this is not a problem for her, reminding that she is a Sea Crank adventurer. Leon then accepts her answer and asks to be allowed to give her a healing potion. He says that she will need to take a potion and go to the guild, after which he asks her to also bring additional medicine with her. The girl takes one medicine and is about to leave for reinforcements, informing him that she is leaving Princess Lydia to him. But the hero asks her to stop and gives her a physical impulse and a feeling boost. He remembers that if she goes to another floor, the support magic will be cancelled, but he hopes that it will help her at least here. Then the girl thanks him and starts running. After that, the hero decides to move forward. Rita asks him if he really doesn't need help and offers him some rest. But Leon says that everything is fine, promising to return the princess, and then Rita decides to leave everything to him. After that, he goes up to the 36th floor and gives himself several effects: physical impulse and sensitivity enhancement. The hero also assumes that the princess can cope with this test, but realizes that another lord may appear. He meets one monster on the way, but he quickly deals with it. At one point, the hero begins to recognize the route and realizes that he is almost there. Then he takes a healing potion and realizes that he has one more thing left. However, this is enough for a fight to help the princess escape. After that, the hero looks around the corner. An enraged girl appears in front of him, waving her weapon from side to side. She attacks the goblin, but he manages to jump back and dodge the attack. The hero notices that the lord is using a sword and draws attention to the fact that the princess is tired, realizing that this is bad. Suddenly, she calls the little nimble monster in a bad way. Suddenly, a voice comes from behind her. The hero introduces himself as a D-rank adventurer. Leon T uses sullen breath to attack the goblin. From this, the monster goes into shock for a moment, and then the hero tells the princess that he came to the rescue at the request of myriad blooming flowers. Then he uses recovery on the girl, which makes her very surprised. Suddenly, the hero hands her a healing potion and asks her to take it to heal, after which she engages in battle with the goblin. However, the monster manages to dodge this attack, and then the hero realizes that this is a real lord, since his attacks are sharp and heavy. But the hero knows that this is normal, and that you just need to focus on blocking the enemy's attacks. Then he uses the sullen breath again and attacks the goblin. After that, Leon kicks him and decides to give him the last blow. However, the goblin manages to dodge, which makes the hero realize that he is smart. Suddenly, the girl informs him that she is fine now, after which she comes forward. She notices that Leon has done a good job, and he thanks her for the praise, and then gives her a feeling boost and a physical boost. At this time, the goblin manages to prepare for battle, when suddenly the girl raises her weapon. The princess thanks the hero for this and asks him to just watch, after which she tells the goblin to get ready for his last fight. The girl rushes into battle and begins to deliver many blows, from which the monster does not have time to dodge and bounce back. One of the blows throws him back, and then the girl decides that it's time to end it. She tries to give him the last blow, but the goblin manages to avoid it again. Then the princess screams that the monster does not know when to give up, in response to which he emits a dissatisfied growl. At this moment, the princess pushes out her weapon and pierces the enemy's body through, after which she throws him to the ground. Watching this, the hero concludes that the girl has done a good job. Then she decides to give him another blow, after which she replies that the hero also did a good job. The girl notices that he was always on guard and was ready to use magic, for which she thanks him. She then introduces herself as Lydia, a C-rank adventurer, and assumes that Leon is standing in front of her now. But suddenly, she remembers that he was one of the Sword of the Wolf Fangs. This makes him a little embarrassed and decides to remind him that he is a red magician. Then the girl changes her face and decides to apologize for saying bad things about him while panicking. But the hero replies that she doesn't have to apologize, when suddenly they both start hearing a strange sound in the hallway. Lydia realizes that it is the howl of a dog, and assumes that it is a kobold. Suddenly, Leon grabs her hand and tells her to run away from here. The girl tries to tell him something, that the hero asks her not to talk and hurry up. But the princess continues and says that even if it's a Lord-class kobold, they can win. However, when Lydia turns around, she notices something terrible. At this time, the hero realizes what kind of monster it is without even looking. He remembers that this boss barely appears even on the upper floors and is horrified. The guys are faced with a rare monster that is half human and half wolf. The guys start running from the scary monster. In the process of running, the girl notices that they missed one turn and starts screaming for the hero to stop. She says that this is the wrong way, but the hero asks her to trust him. He knows every corner of this tower better than any other and understands where they should go. But suddenly he begins to hear the sounds of the monster and the fact that it is approaching, and concludes that they are about to be caught up and caught. Suddenly, the hero stops feeling the girl's hand and notices that she has decided to detain the monster. She blocks the werewolf's blow with her weapon and starts screaming for the hero to run away, when suddenly he uses sullen breath. This makes the monster vulnerable for a moment, and then Lydia begins not to understand what Leon is doing, while the hero did it in order to attract the attention of the enemy. Then the girl jumps back, reports that she cannot understand anything, and asks why Leon is not running. He replies that he will only run with her, and asks her to follow him in the opposite direction after his signal. Then he tells her to walk to the end of the aisle, turn right, around the corner, and immediately open the right door to enter. and the girl's a little surprised that he already has a plan. She asks about it, and the hero replies that yes. However, since he has come this far, she decides to trust him. Then Leon takes out a barrel of water and gives her a signal, after which he throws the object at the monster. The barrel hits the enemy and pours water on him, after which the hero uses sullen breathing. This monster turns over for a while, and the guys start running. After a few seconds, he finally comes to his senses and begins to see where Lydia and Leon are going. The guys reach the door, and the hero opens it for the girl to enter. The monster rushes after them, and then Leon uses sullen breath. This stops the enemy a little, and when he rushes at the hero, he manages to hide behind a closed door. After that, he calmly exhales and answers the girl's question about whether this place is a safe zone. He then reveals that there is a safe area on each floor where monsters cannot enter. Then the girl assumes that the monster will chase them anyway as soon as he sees them, and the hero notices that she evaluates the situation well, casually addressing her informally. But Lydia replies that she can be called something else, since they are all adventurers here. She then reveals that she uses a different identity when entering the tower, and adds that, as an adventurer, the hero should be her senior. After that, the hero agrees to call her differently and instead of Miss, addresses her with a respectful prefix, but the girl says that this should not be done either. Then Leon may suggest that he can just call her by her first name, to which she agrees. She then asks him to explain why he ignored the stairs to the lower floor and decided to hide here. Then the hero tells that there may be team members near the lower floor, and the girl realizes that he did not want them to be in danger. Now, it's starting to mean to her that they just had no other choice. Leon apologizes for dragging her into this, but Lydia informs him that it's not his fault. Then she decides that, in any case, she needs to rest and assumes that the hero is just very tired. Then the hero spreads a cloth on the floor and invites her to sit down, for which she thanks him. Then she sits down and asks Leon to sit down, and he does so, a little embarrassed. Suddenly, the girl begins to stretch and notices the hero's gaze on her. Then he immediately turns away and assumes that Lydia may be thirsty. The hero takes out a barrel of water, and the girl is surprised at this, since she saw that he threw away one barrel earlier. Then he tells her that there are a lot of slots in his inventory, and shows that he has 8 more barrels left, which Lydia admires. The girl notices that he saved her, but the hero, a little embarrassed, says that she is exaggerating. Then he hands her a ladle and asks her to use it, after which she takes it to drink. She starts drinking, and while Leon remains watching her, he notices the drops of water running down her lips and is a little embarrassed. Suddenly, she reports that she feels alive again. Then the girl turns to the hero and apologizes to him. She assumes that he may also be thirsty and hands him a ladle. After a while, they get a little bored, and then Lydia asks what they will do. The hero suggests waiting for reinforcements, as this is the best way to get out of here safely. The girl is a little surprised by this, because she understands that the team members will not even move, because they were not in the best condition before, and therefore believes that they will have to wait a very long time. But the hero says that he healed the scout so that she would call for reinforcements, and assumes that in even the worst case, reinforcements will arrive before tomorrow morning. Then he adds that they actually have their own problems too. Leon says that it all depends on how long the werewolf will be waiting for them. If he loses interest in them and leaves, he can go to the lower floor to look for other prey, given his behavior. Then, they both realize that if the team members stay there, then everything will end badly. Then, the hero adds that even if reinforcements arrive on time and the monster is on this floor, there will still be problems. Leon explains that the Wolf Fang Sword is not here. Then they both realize that even when the spare adventurers of the guild arrive, they will not be able to cope with the werewolf. The hero thinks that if his former team were here, there would still be a chance of salvation. Then he begins to talk about what will happen if the defense forces arrive. However, the girl informs that her brother will not be able to arrive so quickly. She says this is because of the risk, and also because it is not the responsibility of the defense forces. Leon admits that this was to be expected. He thinks about the fact that the duty of the troops is to deal with the monsters escaping from the Banshee. The hero also remembers that the security mechanism in the tower is activated when adventurers want to move to the next floor, and realizes that the convention is that you first need to work with the guild. Suddenly, there is an awkward pause in the conversation. The girl buries her face in her hand and realizes that there is no way out. But the hero suddenly informs her that there is one. Then Lydia immediately asks about it, but Leon warns that it can greatly burden her. But the girl decides not to object, because she does not want to survive at the cost of other victims. Then the hero decides to ask what Lydia thinks about helping magic before discussing tactics or things related to it. She assumes that he is talking about low-level magic, and then he tells her that he cannot use intermediate and higher-level magic, since he is a red magician. But the girl assumes that its effectiveness is comparable to medium-level magic and asks why he can use sense enhancement, which in theory should be inaccessible to a red magician. The hero says that his low-level jobs have reached level 20. Lydia is surprised by this. Leon explains that this refers to the time when his red magician vacancy reached level 15, but he could not find a job at the level. The girl notices that this rumor turned out to be true, and then the hero tells that after raising the level to 20, a sage appeared on his list of changes, and the girl asks about it with surprise, since she has never heard of such a thing. However, he is still a red magician now. Leon says he performed a class change, albeit a temporary one, without using a blessing bowl. He then adds that it took half a day before he returned to his original state, and Lydia reports that she hadn't heard about it, thinking about doing a class shift without a blessing ball. The hero says that he discovered that he does not have the right to change the class with the help of a ball, but the temporary change of class to sage gave him many different skills. Then the girl concludes that the effectiveness of his skills has increased, and Leon agrees with her. He then adds that when changing the class to sage, he noticed how the effectiveness of magic was also increasing. Therefore, he assumes that it can be strengthened so much that it will be possible to defeat a werewolf. From this, Lydia falls into a stupor, imagining how strong the hero can be. The girl is very surprised by this, and the hero reminds that fulfilling one condition will help him change the class without a blessing ball. Then Lydia decides to find out about this condition. Then the hero is very confused and decides that waiting for the defense troops will be the best solution. But Lydia says that there will be more victims from this, and Leon replies that he is not sure that changing the class will be the same good way out, and begins to think that it was not worth talking about it, since he is now unable to hint at intimacy. The girl begins to insist on this option, saying that if it will benefit, then she is ready to try, while the hero tries to dissuade her, assuring her that she will suffer, not to mention the memories. Lydia promises to be patient, as long as she can protect the residents of the city, and then the hero says that adventurers should be aware of the possibility of death. As a result, nothing works out for him, and Lydia decides to find out what this condition is. Then Leon decides to tell her anyway and informs her that the condition for changing his class is intimacy, waiting for her reaction. Lydia started to worry after Leon's request. He asked her to make love to him, but now the girl can't accept it. The hero recalls that they had a discussion about activating the power of the sage. Then the girl agreed, but now she's quiet. Then he takes a deep breath when suddenly the girl throws a weapon in his direction. Leon realizes that he just wants to die and crawls away. He glances at the girl and sees that she is sitting in the corner and doing nothing. Suddenly, the hero notices that she is whispering something to herself. After listening a little, he realizes that the girl wants something. At this time, Lydia realizes that if the hero had not come to her aid, her life would not have been saved. Then she concludes that the hero is her savior and understands that he needs to be thanked somehow. The girl thinks that she has no other choice, even though she is embarrassed that the first time she will be with a man she hardly knows. At this time, the hero begins to think that it is better to stay here and wait for the girl's answer. He decides to wait until she calms down, even though it will be quite boring. But suddenly, he starts to hear a scream and turns around. The girl rises and offers the hero to do it anyway. At first, he does not understand what he is talking about, and then she clarifies what she says about intimacy. The hero asks if she is sure, for sure. She suggests doing it quickly, as she has already made a decision. Leon accepts her answer and asks if she knows how to do it at all. Then the girl admits that she has never had such a thing. Therefore, this time will be her first. This makes the hero very embarrassed and turns away. Then the girl decides to ask what she will need to do. After that, Leon turns around and sees her folded underwear on the fabric. Lydia awkwardly covers herself with her skirt, assuming that the hero is about to take off her clothes. Then she decides to lie down and allows the hero to act. Leon stands over her and starts just looking at her. Then he is surprised that she will just lie there. Then the girl asks what she should do. She remembers that intimacy is meant for having children and begins not to understand how they will do it without being in love. But then she realizes that they have to do it to activate the sage. She then informs him that she is not going to force Leon. Then he informs that he will do it. He sits down next to her and asks her to spread her legs. This makes the girl very embarrassed, but still fulfills the request. The hero moves up to her and unzips his fly. Then he tries to enter her, when suddenly Lydia starts asking him to hurry up. Then he stops, and the girl starts asking him to speed up. The hero says that he understands her, but still cannot enter. The girl assumes that she said something wrong, but Leon explains that she cannot enter her until she gets wet. Lydia begins to think about it, and then the hero offers to help her. However, she asks to be allowed to do it herself, after which it will be his turn. Then the hero steps aside, and the girl begins to satisfy herself. She realizes that her moans make the situation even more awkward and covers her mouth with her hand. Leon notices that her moans are getting louder, and at one point the girl reaches the desired result and reports that she is finished. Then she lies back down again and covers her face with her hand. The hero moves up to her again and says that he is starting to insert. After that, it becomes easier for him to enter, and now his feelings become more pleasant. Suddenly, the girl starts moaning. Leon does not understand what is happening, when suddenly Lydia informs him that this is her first time. The hero replies that he understood and apologized. He begins to worry about whether she will be hurt. But suddenly, Lydia's face changes, and she tells him that they have to do this, and therefore, they need to move forward as soon as possible. For a moment, the hero falls silent and becomes more determined. Then he takes the girl by the waist and informs her that he entered her. He then asks if she is okay, and she replies that she is, with awkwardness in her voice. She then politely asks him to do it quickly, which makes him embarrassed too. He thinks about the fact that he is engaged in intimacy with the Princess Knight, with the beautiful daughter of the Lord. Then he wonders, how can he reach the peak of pleasure? But eventually the hero begins to move, and after a while the girl asks if he is still finished. He asks her to wait a bit, when suddenly he decides to ask if Lydia has cast a spell against pregnancy on herself. The girl admits that she did so, because it could be risky. Then Leon offers to continue, but the girl jumps up and asks him to slow down. The hero asks about what happened, and Lydia begins to worry that he might end up inside her, causing him to be perplexed. Then she replies that there is no need to end inside. After that, he begins not to understand what the girl means, and decides then to finish inside. Then he adds that if they fail, they can try again, which terrifies the girl. Then she asks him not to take it all into his head and asks the hero to get down to business. The hero asks how the girl is feeling, and she replies that she is fine and that she finally wants to do it. Then Leon accepts her answer and proceeds. Lydia grabs the bedspread and starts moaning, covering herself with her hand. At this time, the hero is closely watching her face and body movements. Suddenly, he grabs her by the waist again and, turning, screams that he is about to reach a peak. After that, they both relax, and the girl starts saying that it's over. The hero notices that she begins to cry and notices for himself her determination. Then, he decides that it won't all be wasted. After that, a message appears in front of him stating that all the conditions have been met. Leon realizes that the sage's power has been activated and that it is time to strike back at the monster. The hero uses cleansing on the girl, and she suddenly begins to feel different. She immediately changes her face and jumps up, clutching her stomach. Lydia realizes that the substance has disappeared from her body and is very surprised by this. She pays attention to the feeling her body has felt. At this point, the hero uses skills such as healing and recovery on her. Then Lydia begins to feel much better, which makes her shudder. She turns to the hero and gives him her uncomprehending look. Then the girl screams, asking if he can really use spells in a safe zone. Then Leon tells her that this is the power of the sage that they have activated. Lydia is surprised by this and begins to admire the hero. This makes his gaze more confident. Then he stretches his arms out in front of him and uses physical enhancement and sensitivity enhancement on Lydia. This makes the girl feel stronger several times and notices that this is very cool. Lydia grabs her weapon and says that her body has suddenly become so light and full of strength that she becomes completely confident of her victory when she encounters a monster. Then the girl screams that she will not be afraid of him and promises to kill him in a couple of blows. But then she notices that the hero is getting unwell, and he grabs his head. She immediately goes up to him and asks about what happened to him. Suddenly, she remembers that she forgot to put on her underwear, which was left lying. The hero points at him with his hand and informs him that the cleansing stage has been completed, while the girl screams in shame and rushes for her underwear. Then she puts it on and, displeased, begins to guess that the hero saw everything. At first, he looks away in embarrassment, and then confesses what he saw. Then the girl grabs her weapon and calls him names. The hero is very scared, but admits that he is guilty. Then Lydia decides that it's time for a counterattack and heads towards the exit from the safe zone. A smile is directed at the hero's face. He agrees with Lydia, and is also going to defeat the monster and then come back. But then the hero reminds the girl that the effect of the safe zone will disappear as soon as he closes the door, but she immediately goes out into the corridor. Leon asks if everything is going to be alright, and Lydia says yes. Then the hero closes the door and immediately notices that the atmosphere has somehow changed. He assumes that it's all because of the werewolf, when suddenly he appears at the end of the corridor opposite him. The monster recognizes the one who hurt him, and his rage begins to grow. Suddenly, a girl appears in front of the hero and offers to start a battle, which makes the desire to win light up in her eyes. Then she makes a dash towards the enemy and makes a swing before the collision. The hero is surprised that the girl decided to immediately strike a direct blow and concludes that physical strengthening makes her stronger than he imagined. At this time, the girl begins to fight furiously with the werewolf, striking him many blows in close combat. Then they bounce off each other, and the hero notices that the enemy's back is now open. Then he pulls out his weapon and strikes him, but the enemy manages to cover himself with his hand and block the attack. The hero understands that this was to be expected from the strongest rare monster. At this time, the werewolf turns to Leon and stabs him to push him away from himself. But the hero manages to block the blow by exposing his weapon. Then the werewolf strikes his sword several times, trying to break it. Leon thinks that, having become a sage, he began to be able to withstand even such strong attacks, but he's still interested in finding out if his magic is enough to counterattack a werewolf. Suddenly, the monster manages to grab the hero, but at the same moment the girl strikes him, redirecting his attention to herself. The hero realizes that this is their chance to win, and decides to cast a spell. Then Lydia warns that she will push the monster in his direction and does it at the same second. She swings her weapon and stabs the werewolf, after which the werewolf's body evaporates. The girl starts laughing contentedly and notices that they finally did it. At this time, the hero receives a message that his level has been raised. Then he also learns that he received a magic blade, magic power detection, increased the level of the sage increases, and also improved one of the skills. The hero remembers that magic blade and magic power detection are not available at the initial levels, and therefore concludes that he has finally surpassed the initial levels. Lydia notices that he looks like he's not thrilled. Then the hero is distracted from his thoughts and begins to deny it. He thinks about the fact that in search of magic and intermediate level skills, this may be typical for a sage. Then the hero realizes that he will definitely become stronger and stronger. Lydia grabs a special magic stone in her hands and lifts it up. She calls him huge and begins to admire his size. Then the girl adds that this was to be expected from such a rare monster as a werewolf. The guys are coming back. Lydia hugs a piece of fur and says that it is very pleasant and fluffy to the touch. Then the hero tells her that the fur has considerable strength and durability, and the girl agrees with him. She continues to snuggle up to the fluffy fur, when suddenly she remembers something and changes her expression. Lydia screams that they cannot stay here for long, and the hero agrees that they must return as soon as possible. Suddenly, Leon notices that Lydia has started to linger. She tries to say something but immediately interrupts herself. Then, the main character decides to take an interest and ask her about what happened. The girl glances at her pocket watch and informs them that they have some more free time. Then she decides to ask the hero about why they should hurry. Leon is surprised at this question at first, but then reminds that this territory has already been explored. However, the girl begins to object to him, saying that they have already gone quite far. Then she decides to ask if he is not aiming for the upper floors, causing the hero to mumble questioningly in response. Lydia says that now they are stronger than ever, and therefore they can't just come back, and asks the hero's decision. The girl says that there will be many monsters of the Lord class on the upper floors. They can fight them and other powerful monsters, gain a lot of experience, and distract their attention from the members of the chaotic explosive flower. These words make the hero think. Lydia then adds that she is not exactly suggesting that Leon do this, but begins to assure him that this will be a test of her fighting strength and skills. The hero is sure that the girl is thinking about something else. Then he assumes that she seems to have forgotten about one big problem, and she is surprised to clarify what this problem is. Then Leon tells us that the sage has a time limit. After that, the girl changes her face and asks how much more time they have, thereby making the hero think. He recalls that he was engaged in intimacy with Emiria until the morning, after which they both fell asleep from fatigue. Leon understands that it begins after ejaculation. However, he does not forget that he received this message a couple of times, 1 hour after the end. The girl asks him if there is a way to activate the sage, and the hero, who thought about these gaps, tells her that this state ended after he fell asleep. Leon remembers that the message appeared shortly before he almost fell asleep. Now he realizes that he has no idea why this happened. Then the hero informs them that they have 1 hour left, and the girl takes note of this. Suddenly, she decides to ask how far they would have been able to get if they had 6 hours left. Leon replies that it all depends on their priority. He suggests that they could have gone up to the 45th floor if they had chosen the shortest route, thereby making Lydia wonder. After that, the hero adds that the entire map of this tower is in his head. Then the girl screams with delight, saying that it is very cool. After that, Leon says that in this case they will be able to get there. However, they will not be able to return since transitions to other floors take longer. Upon hearing this, Lydia is a little embarrassed and admits that she finds it acceptable, which the hero is a little surprised at, and asks her again. Then the girl suggests that if the situation worsens, then they could do it again. At first, from these words, the hero falls into a stupor for a moment, and then decides to ask Lydia if she is sure. She tells with a satisfied look that the Lord is responsible for the safety of the tower, and says that there is nothing wrong with the fact that she, as the daughter of the Lord himself, should also bear this responsibility. The hero says that he thinks that they should wait for reinforcements, in response to which Lydia asks him to stop and just start doing as she says. Then, as the daughter of a lord, she orders him to do only what she tells him to do. Only what she tells him to do. But in an instant, the girl changes her face and, hesitating a little, asks the hero if they will do it. This kind of Lydia makes Leon a little embarrassed and tense. Then, if she is satisfied with it, he agrees, thinking that it will not matter more. Upon hearing this, the girl importantly decides to declare that she is glad to see that the hero understood her. After that, she turns her back on him and suggests that they get on the road as soon as possible, since they don't have much time. However, Leon asks her to stop. He grabs her by the shoulders to hold her down, and informs her that he will point the way. But suddenly, this makes the girl jump up and tense up with a scream. Then she takes a closed position and sinks to the floor. The hero immediately gets scared and asks if she is okay. She replies that everything is fine, as she was just a little surprised. Then Leon is still trapped, but then decides to forget about it. He informs them that they are moving to the 41st floor and tells them that he would not have found the remaining monsters on this floor if he had not checked. Then Lydia decides to ask how the hero did it. Leon remembers that they gained a level from defeating the werewolf and explains that this is how he gained skills. After that, the girl tells that she got 2 levels and now has 33 levels. However, she did not get any skills. After that, the hero decides to use the magic power detection. He closes his eyes and blurry images of the goblin begin to pop up in his head. Suddenly, it gets a little hard for him, and Lydia notices it. She begins to worry about the hero and asks if everything is okay, in response to which he says that everything is fine, because he just took in a lot of information. After that, Leon takes a shallow breath and turns around. He tells her that he needs to try again, which is why the girl has to ask him again. Then the hero tells that he was able to see the entire structure of this floor, thereby making Lydia wonder. At first, the girl screams when she hears these words, but then suddenly thinks about something. Suddenly, she decides to ask the hero if he really wants to increase the range of magic power detection. In response, he replies that and explains that the range will enhance the effect of sensitivity enhancement. Lydia draws attention to Leon's enthusiastic face, assumes that he did not use it on himself, and decides not to interfere with him anyway. Then the hero turns his back on her and becomes more focused. He uses the sensitivity boost effect and begins to see which rooms the other monsters are in. The hero also manages to see a level 35 goblin general. Leon continues to explore the area and notices several treasure chests. Then he discovers that there are still level 25 goblins and a level 32 kobold on the floor with them. The main character realizes that even though he doesn't see monsters very well with this skill, he gets more detailed information. Suddenly, a girl starts calling out to him, seeing how he just froze in place. She starts calling Leon and asking if he's okay. After a few seconds, the hero comes to his senses and turns to the girl. He glances at her breasts and begins to see her without clothes, while the girl anxiously asks about what happened. Suddenly, the hero jumps up and covers his intimate place with his hands, so that Lydia does not suspect anything. Fortunately for him, the girl does not notice this, then pays attention to the fact that he is trembling all over. She asks again how the hero is feeling, and he replies that he is fine. Leon then turns away from her and says that he has come across too much information and that he needs to figure it out. He quietly uses the clean up skill and adds that he got so carried away that he was already sweating. Then the girl asks him not to overdo it, in response to which he begins to laugh. After a while, the guys go up to the 36th floor and start running along the right path. The hero tells the girl to turn left and informs her that they will meet a kobold there. Upon hearing this, Lydia asks him to leave it to her so that she can handle it on her own. When they meet a kobold, the monster notices them and is a little surprised by their appearance. The girl makes a jump and finds herself right behind the kobold. Then she pulls out her weapon and informs the monster that he was very unlucky to meet her, after which she defeats him. After a while, the guys come to the exit, and the hero decides to ask Lydia how she feels after he strengthened her body with his magic. In response, the girl admits that now I can fight even longer, after which she offers to continue their progress to higher floors. When they reach the 37th floor, Leon uses physical enhancement and sensitivity enhancement. He then asks Lydia about the changes, and she informs him that since he raised the levels, the effect of magic has also increased. The hero admits that he thought the effect would decrease when they moved to the upper floor, after which he suggests continuing, since the duration of the sage should end soon. Instantly, the girl is a little confused and asks what Leon is going to do when the sage is over, and this makes him think. Then the hero suggests that they return, and says that he cannot do this to Lydia every time. At first, the girl screams when she hears about each time, but then she starts to hesitate. Finally, she decides to say that she doesn't mind so much and ask if they will do it. The hero clarifies whether Lydia really wants to go up to the 41st floor, but the girl screams that she wants to get to the 45th floor. Then Leon informs them that they will have to climb another 9 floors, and she says that's exactly where she wants to go. Then the girl adds that she must make sure that the tower is safe, as it must protect people. Therefore, it doesn't matter to her how many times she has to do it with the hero, 10, 20, or even more times. Even this thought does not frighten Lydia, so she informs about it, after which Leon asks her to calm down. Suddenly, a girl screams and asks where the safe zone is in order to get there. The hero tries to calm her down with words, but realizing that this method does not work, decides to grab her by the shoulders. This immediately makes Lydia shrink, and sure signs of severe embarrassment appear on her face. Seeing that she is calmed down, Leon reminds her that the time of the sage is not over yet, and therefore concludes that they do not need to do this right now. At this time, the girl realizes that she has realized something else. She understands that she wants to feel the hero's touch on her. After a few seconds, Leon decides to let her go, and Lydia tells him in a trembling voice that she understood him. Then the girl decides to apologize, assuming that she got too excited because of the many events that happened. But the hero replies that it cannot be called a bad action on her part, that she wants to be a responsible person. Then Lydia grabs her weapon again and informs that it is possible to move on. A confident smile appears on her face, and excitement lights up in her eyes. After that, the guys go up to the 38th floor in a short amount of time, where Lydia meets and defeats goblins. Then they go to 39, where the main character copes with the monsters. After that, the guys go up to the 40th floor, where the girl embarks on melee combat, and Leon helps her in battle with the help of magic. Eventually, they get to the 41st floor and meet another bunch of goblins there. The main character looks back and reports that they have defeated all the monsters of the Lord class of the floor they are on, and the girl admits that she feels better now. Leon asks her how much more time they have, and she, looking at her watch, replies that they still have about 5 more minutes. Then he offers to go to the deformation zone. But when he reports this, he realizes that the girl at that time offered to go to the safe zone. Realizing this, they cry out in surprise and begin to look at each other with an uncomprehending look. The hero says that they need to stop here and go back, but she begins to insist on going to the 45th floor. Then Leon remembers that the girl said she didn't want to do it anymore, but she explains that she only said that it didn't matter anymore. Suddenly, the girl becomes aware of something, and she screams. Lydia clarifies whether the condition of the wise man of the hero does not always pass after 1 hour, and he replies that it happened in a different way. Then she suggests getting to the safe zone first, and adds that once this condition passes, the hero will be able to continue to learn more about it there. Leon asks again about learning more, and the girl, who is overcome with great embarrassment, replies that he can do this to her. After that, she nervously looks away, waiting for what the hero will say to this. Leon sighs heavily and still agrees to go to the safe zone first, as Lydia wanted. Upon hearing this, she immediately jumps up and asks if the hero is serious now, to which he replies that yes. Then he adds that, in fact, in his opinion, it's not so bad to be able to do it with a beautiful girl, for example, like Lydia. At these words, she jumps up and immediately asks him again. The hero turns around and informs them that they have 1 minute left, while the girl can barely stand on her feet from embarrassment. The guys get to the safe zone of the 41st floor. Leon opens the door and, out of politeness, asks the girl to get out first, to which she expresses her gratitude in response. After that, he himself goes inside the room and closes the doors, when suddenly strange sensations pierce his body. The hero turns to Lydia and informs her that the time of the sage is over. At this news, she freezes with an embarrassed expression on her face. The question arises in her mind: to do it or not to do it? Leon reasoned that by raising the class level, the effects associated with it would also be enhanced. After a class change, the skill can still be used to a certain extent. The guy said loudly that the power of a red magician is higher than that of a level 1 sage. But now that the sage has reached level 3, it's the opposite. Even though Lydia recognizes Leon's growing strength, she still hesitates. The girl asked tensely that, after all, what he meant. Leon replied that she didn't need to put so much pressure on herself. It's not so bad if they come back now. The girl hit the ground with an axe and screamed loudly that he did not want to do this to her. The guy replied that, no. He just said. Lydia interrupted him and asked him what to do or not to do, what he chooses. He said he wanted to. The girl shouted that then they could do it. It doesn't really matter to her. If Leon wants to do it, then isn't it natural for her to do the same? He asked that she wanted to do it too. Lydia looked at him and blushed sharply. She waved her hands and shouted in displeasure that she had not said such a thing. Leon screamed in fright to calm her down. The girl dropped her weapon and pushed the guy. Leon fell to the floor with a loud cry. Lydia sat down next to me and said she was calm. After thinking it over, she came to the conclusion that hugging him was absolutely necessary. Lydia added that by working together, they would be able to move up to higher floors, simultaneously increasing their levels and reducing the number of strong monsters. The Lord's daughter is getting stronger. It's a joy for the city. Lydia went on to say that, in fact, they could have reached the 50th floor if they had tried their best. Leon awkwardly said that he thought reinforcements were on their way here, so maybe they'd make it to the 45th floor. Lydia climbed onto the guy's lap. Leon thought excitedly that he could feel her warmth even in his trousers, and she was also soft. The girl blushed deeply and exhaled. The girl blushed and said that it was in order to raise the level and make sure that the tower was safe. She should hug him tightly. Leon replied that he wanted it too. Lydia said with a smile that she knew it. She added that there was no choice left. They need a big hug. Leon awkwardly said that at first. Lydia interrupted him and told him to calm down. It's okay. They hugged tightly, and Lydia screamed loudly. Leon clenched his teeth and excitedly thought that hugging was fun. He told her to slow down. The girl threw her head back and screamed even louder. She breathed wearily. Leon closed his eyes and thought that he couldn't hold back. They stopped hugging and sighed loudly. The guy and the girl hugged each other tightly. Leon thought confusedly that it seemed to him that the sage's time was over as soon as they entered the safe zone. Still, these feelings. Leon looked at Lydia and thought that it looked like the feeling enhancement effect was still going on. His body still feels a pleasant sensation, so if they stay in this position. He put his hands on her shoulders and thought that Lydia seemed unusual right now. This is because of the increased sensitivity, which is why she behaves like this. Suddenly, the guy felt that all the conditions were fulfilled. The power of the sage was activated. Leon thought that this was it, although he still vaguely imagines hugs as a necessary condition. The guy went on to argue that this state is activated when hugs are very tight. He wants to know more about it. Leon heard a heavy sigh. Lydia said sheepishly that it was so embarrassing. Leon looked at her and saw that her clothes had pulled up a little. He asked sheepishly if she was okay. The girl blushed and told him not to pay attention to her. Leon leaned over and touched her head. The guy said loudly that he was activating purification. Lydia asked in surprise what it was. Leon replied that he had applied purification to rid her of it. The girl happily said that she feels much better now. He asked her if she was okay now. Lydia replied sheepishly that she didn't really mind. Leon asked in surprise what. The girl blushed and screamed that it was nothing. But her expression, Leon replied that it must have been because of his writing skills. He is also a little excited about the effect of the skill, so she doesn't have to worry about it. The girl proudly told herself that she was learning fast, like a noble lady. She can't come to terms with these awkward expressions. Leon confusedly said that Lydia was charming. The couple came to the 42nd floor. Lydia slaughtered another monster and proudly shouted that she had gained another level. Leon shouted that he was too. The girl said that while everything was going smoothly, he had gained new skills. Leon said he got a quick casting call. Lydia asked in surprise that fast casting, wasn't it a level 70 skill of a great magician? The guy replied that even the great magician Lloyd from the Sword of the Wolf's Fang did not receive it. She said such a great quote. How brilliant. Leon thought, the faster they level up, the smoother their research progresses. They had almost reached the end of the 43rd floor, after which time the sage's action would end. They managed to get to the 45th floor. Lydia asked what they could do next. The guy replied that they planned to go up to the 45th floor. He asked her if she was hungry. Leon added that no regeneration magic or potion could quench the hollow. The girl replied with displeasure that she knew, but she really wanted to continue their journey. Leon said that although the sage is over, the effects of supporting magic still persist. There are no more Lord-class monsters below the 45th floor. He has not become a burden, even if he is a red magician. Lydia replied that she didn't care about that. The girl asked what to do or not to do. She shouted loudly that no one could guarantee their safe return. Leon looked away and awkwardly answered what to do. The girl turned to him and screamed that then they could do it. Leon looked at him in surprise. Lydia said sheepishly that he could. Suddenly, she stretched out her hand and shouted at him to wait. Lydia looked away and said sheepishly that it was so embarrassing when he looked at her like that. Leon said he wouldn't watch it then. She asked in surprise that he could do it despite. Leon asked that then why wouldn't she turn her back on him? Lydia said sheepishly that then the clothes would be pulled up. Leon said she could stand up and then put her hands on the wall. The girl stood near the wall and asked what was like that. Leon told her to lift her torso a little. Lydia asked if that was the case, but please hurry up. The guy said he understood. Leon hugged the girl and thought this must be the last time they do this. Lydia screamed in embarrassment when she felt a hug from Leon. The guy continued to argue that all this is happening because of unwanted accidents. She did not initially work with their team. The daughter of a lord and a commoner. There is too much difference in status for them to meet while doing all these things. Lydia screamed that it already hurt. Leon thought that this was probably his last time hugging Lydia, so he wanted to do it a lot longer, but still. She screamed that was enough. Leon hugged her tighter, and Lydia screamed loudly. They had been hugging for a long enough time that she was already tired. The girl screamed loudly from everything that was happening. Lydia was so tired that she couldn't hold on and began to fall. Leon caught her and screamed at her to be careful. The girl replied that it was fine. The guy saw that all the conditions were met. The power of the sage was activated. They went on to conquer the floors. Leon cured the girl on the 42nd floor. Lydia and Leon chased the last monster on the 43rd floor. Lydia killed the last monster on the 44th floor. Leon realized that the sage's time had already ended. Lydia waved her weapon and shouted with a smile at the monsters to stay out of the way. The monster was completely neutralized. The couple sent them further to the 41st floor. Lydia said with a smile that they got here easily. What should they do now? Leon replied that she would let him use supportive magic first. The guy did just that. Leon looked at his hands and thought with displeasure that, as expected, the effect was too weak compared to when he had a sage. He looked at the girl and said he was sorry, that his magic was not very effective. Lydia asked in surprise what he was saying. Lydia said with a big smile that she couldn't even believe it was a spell cast by a red magician. Wasn't it amazing? The guy was a little taken aback by her words. The girl added with a smile that now they can easily search the entire floor. Leon smiled sheepishly at her words and said that he was suggesting they go to the stairs. The girl asked him if he was sure. Lydia asked why they didn't go to the safe zone first. Leon awkwardly asked that she was still worried about him. Lydia blushed and screamed that she wasn't. What she means is that if necessary, they can do it. Leon looked at her in surprise. The girl screamed that there was no such thing. The guy said it was okay. They can go to the safe zone, just like she said. Leon stopped in surprise and asked what it was. Lydia excitedly asked what it was. The guy replied that he felt an unusually powerful magical energy. Lydia asked if they might have missed someone. He replied that this place should be a deformation zone. Leon shouted joyfully that they were people. The girl asked in surprise that people were like that. The guy shouted loudly that there were about 10 people there. It looked like they were reinforcements. Leon excitedly added that they should go to them instead of going to the safe zone. Lydia screamed loudly that she was. They ran quickly forward until the guy called Lydia. The guy asked with a smile if she could keep the sage a secret. He looked at her hopefully. He really wanted to believe that she would fulfill his request. Lydia asked in surprise why. Is it impossible to get rid of his reputation as a weakling? He deserves more recognition. Leon said thank you for thinking well of him. Leon added that he was afraid it would get him into trouble because... Suddenly, the guy stopped and fell silent to think about his answer and express himself correctly. Leon looked at her and asked if he would tell everyone about the sage. Then he would have to reveal his terms. Leon thought that then, they would understand why even with only 2 people, they managed to defeat the werewolf, climb to the 45th floor, and return safely. Lydia blushed and sheepishly said that she didn't really mind. Leon smiled broadly and replied that he was very grateful to her, but he wanted to say something. Leon looked into her eyes and said that he did not want Lydia to interfere. Lydia blushed deeply and said that Leon cared so much about her. Leon loudly said that in fact, he wouldn't have to worry about the necessities if he could earn a large amount of money on a raid into the tower. He shouldn't spoil everything, because he wants a peaceful life. She asked me how it was. Lydia smiled broadly and happily said that if this is what Leon wants, then she won't tell anyone about the sage. She promises that no one will find out. The couple ran forward. Suddenly, Lydia stopped and shouted for Leon to look ahead. It's the same. There were 2 guards in front and a guy who was talking to them about something. He turned his head and looked at the couple. The guy ran screaming that he had finally met Lydia. Leon asked in surprise how they knew each other. The girl screamed that the older brother was here. Lydia excitedly asked why he was here. The guy put his hands on her shoulders and replied that the guildmaster had told him. The girl interrupted him and asked that he had contacted the defense forces directly. However, he arrived quickly. The guy said loudly that it had been half a month since Flaming Whirlwind retired. He suggests getting out of here first to talk more. The guy raised his head and looked into the eyes of Leon, who was standing to the side and watching them. Leon's brother shouted that they would have a lot to talk about after they got out. They returned to the city to rest and talk. They went to the guild to discuss everything. Lydia's older brother said he was sorry, but he wanted to rent a room. The girl replied that this way, please. Lydia and Leon sat down in front of the girl's brother. Lydia excitedly called her brother to start a conversation. The guy loudly told her to wait a minute. Leon looked at him carefully. A werewolf girl came into the room saying she was sorry for making them wait. The guy said that everything was fine. She could sit down. She replied that she was fine, and then sat down next to Lydia. Lydia's brother said he wanted to introduce himself again. He's Ryan Kuvin, and he came here on behalf of the Lord. The werewolf girl said it was so respectful of them to come here on behalf of the Lord. She added that it was a great honor for her to meet them. She is Rita, the leader of the chaotic, explosive color. Lydia said she thought she didn't need to introduce herself. The guy said he was Leon, a lone adventurer. Ryan asked what Lydia could finally explain to him. The guy closed his eyes, which showed that he did not really like the current situation, but he wanted to listen to his sister. Lydia asked that an explanation was needed. Ryan looked at her and told her why she was there. She replied that it was because she wanted to use the teleportation portal. Ryan said he was asking how she ended up like this. Leon asked with a smile what he could say. Ryan asked, displeased, what it was. The guy realized that the atmosphere was not very good, and excitedly said that in fact, Leon explained everything to Ryan. Ryan said it was understandable, so he relied on Lydia to get to higher floors. The girl screamed angrily that he was saying such a thing. The guy replied that he was a red magician, right? Just a burden. Lydia and Rita shouted furiously that Leon was not a burden at all. Ryan awkwardly asked what really happened. Lydia replied sheepishly to prove it. Leon can show these things. He asked what the pieces were. The guy put a stone in front of Ryan. Lydia's brother asked in surprise that he had defeated a werewolf. It was just incredible. Rita said with a smile that Leon's supportive magic was incredible. Lydia said yes. Ryan studied the stone carefully to convince himself of its authenticity. The guy looked at everyone and excitedly screamed. He said sheepishly that he was asking for forgiveness. Ryan said he understands that now. Leon is a capable adventurer, thanks to whom Lydia has benefited greatly. But why did they target the upper floors? Lydia replied that because. Ryan said it would be better if they waited in the safe area of the 37th floor, instead of fighting a werewolf. Lydia replied that they had no idea when the troops would arrive. Ryan said that then they could return to the lower floors. There are so many adventurers as guards instead of defense troops. The guards, as a rule, appear from the 31st floor. Lydia looked away, embarrassed. Leon lowered his head and thought he was right. They have advanced thanks to the sage. He asked Lydia to keep it a secret. The guy said that actually. Ryan said he sincerely apologizes. Leon asked in surprise what it was. Lydia's brother said that his sister's weakness had probably caused him a lot of trouble. Leon excitedly shouted that no, Lydia had helped him a lot. Ryan said that even though the upper floors posed many dangers to him, he kept her company and returned her safe and sound. Ryan bowed and spoke loudly, which brings his deepest apologies and gratitude. Leon looked at him in shock and replied that it was not necessary. Lydia shouted with a smile that even if they went further, Leon could still fight. Do not underestimate his potential. He is very strong. Ryan said that he is still a D-rank adventurer, no matter how talented he is, and that he is a level 20 Red Mage is a fact. The girl looked at him with displeasure. Lydia's brother added that she had no idea how worried he was. He can't bear to imagine that she would be next after her father. Shocked, Lydia asked what was next after her father. What happened to him? Ryan replied that the Seven Heavens Gladiator, the S-rank team he leads, had been destroyed. The girls shouted that the team that discovered the Unu Tower was the continent's most dangerous dungeon. Impossible. They cleared the 99th floor in a few days. The guy replied that he was. The guy went on to say that about half a month ago, they started raiding the 100th floor. They have not returned. It has already been 10 days after the scheduled date. Ryan leaned over and said that the defense forces and adventurers were searching all floors from 91 to 99. There were no traces of the Seven Heavens Gladiator. Lydia shouted in shock that she was on the 100th floor. Ryan looked at his sister and said, "That's where the boss is attracted to." The girl could not believe what she had heard. Lydia's brother said that none of those who raided the 100th floor had returned. He thought their father's team could handle it, and yet, Lydia tearfully said that then they should find his remains to find out the truth. Ryan replied that he did. The girl said that he would definitely come back, suddenly out of nowhere, with his iconic laugh. Leon looked at her worriedly. Suddenly, a guard entered the room with the words that it was time for Ryan to go. The guy looked at his new acquaintances and said that Leon and Rita could go. That was all. Rita and Leon got up from the table and looked at the girl excitedly. The guy called Lydia, but Ryan interrupted him and said he was sorry, but it was their family business. They needed to talk. Ryan added that he could keep these items for himself as a reward. Leon said he wasn't sure. The guard told Leon and Rita to leave the room, please. The guy looked at Lydia for the last time. Leon said with a smile that he was grateful to Lydia for everything. The girl bit her lip and said nothing. They left the room. Rita said that something they couldn't imagine had happened. The girl added with a smile that, in any case, without Leon, they would already be dead. He helped them a lot. Leon shook her hand and told her that they should help each other in such situations. Rita said she had to come back as everyone was worried, so she would thank him later. The girl looked at him and smiled broadly. Leon said that there was nothing special about it. Rita waved her hand and said that why not? She would make him accept his gratitude, but now for now. Leon exhaled wearily as she left. Leon thought he should go back to the hotel and finish for today. A new day came and the guy came to the guild. Miriam noticed him and waved at him. The girl said, with a smile, that he must have had a hard day yesterday. Leon replied that he did. She asked what brought him here today. The guy replied that he wanted to present the items. Miriam replied that it was possible. Leon poured everything on the table and said that the bones and fangs of the Goblin Lord. There are so many universal class items. Miriam said it was brilliant. She picked up the stone and excitedly said that he had indeed defeated the werewolf, and so he would be promoted to C rank because of the results of the last expedition. Please, he has to give her the card. Leon happily thought that he had finally been promoted. Miriam said loudly that she believed Leon deserved it. Now that he has been promoted to C rank, he can receive stable rewards by exploring the tower. The guy shouted that he was lucky this time. The girl said that he used to be a charming little boy, but now he is a reliable person. Leon awkwardly said he was glad to hear that. He thought about what this topic was about. Miriam blushed and asked if she could be his wife. Leon thought he knew that. He said she was always attentive to him. The girl screamed that she would try her best. He shouted that no matter what, he still wanted to be an adventurer. The girl blushed and happily said that they could both go to work. She could use her savings to buy a house. They could also have up to 3 children. Leon told her to find someone better than him soon. People heard a loud bang and looked at the reception in surprise. Miriam hit the table with all her might. Leon asked what it was. The girl replied wearily that such an outdated answer. Miriam grabbed his shirt and screamed when it was soon, "Who was that someone?" Then why is she still single at 29, even though she's almost 30? Leon excitedly replied that she looked young. The girl shouted that he would marry her right now. Leon told her to let him go. Miriam tearfully said that she was begging him. She doesn't have much left. The guy wheezed that he couldn't breathe. Other employees came and dragged her away, screaming for her to stop and calm down. Miriam screamed that, no, she would marry Leon. It's not fair, Leon has to help her. Another employee came up to the guy and bowed, saying that she was very sorry about this mess. Leon replied that everything was fine. The girl looked at him intently. She said that he shouldn't have caused misunderstandings because he didn't know. Leon awkwardly asked what she was saying. Miriam was proposing to people all the time. The girl screamed that she had been here for 3 years, but she had never seen such a thing. Leon spread his arms to the sides and excitedly replied that he was already used to it. It was typical. She said that the fact is that Miriam usually gets into trouble with a wolf. Leon thought that Miriam and the sword of the wolf's fang. The girl said they treat Leon like trash, that's why. The girl bowed and excitedly said that she apologized for talking about non-existent things. They should talk about this another time. Leon looked at her awkwardly. It was getting dark, and Leon went to his room. He lay down on the bed and thought he was wondering if he had hurt Miriam's feelings. Should he visit Amelia? Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. Leon got out of bed and said that it was okay to come in. Rita came in with a bottle and shouted hello. The guy thought it was going to be a long night, right? Rita loudly asked what he was doing there. Let him sit down quickly. Leon asked in surprise what she was doing here. The girl replied with a smile that she was just thinking that she wanted to treat him in gratitude. Leon came up to the table and said that she was well-versed in the hotel. Rita smiled broadly and said that she had good spies here. Rita picked up the bottle and told him to calm down. It was time for them to drink. Leon asked if she really wanted to have a good rest, Miss Rita. The girl said with displeasure that she was not a miss, but just Rita. Leon said that, in general, one is definitely possible. Rita shouted joyfully that they were starting. The guy told her not to overdo it. She shouted out what kind of survivors. Leon replied that for the survivors and for their health. Leon drank and coughed. Rita looked at him in surprise and then laughed out loud. The girl said with a smile that he would have made a good funny guy. Something bad had happened to him. Leon remembered the incident with Miriam and awkwardly replied that he did not. Rita asked that it was only about one glass, what he would do. The guy replied that he seemed to be free of this. He thinks he can still sit. A few hours passed, and the couple was already very cheerful. Rita said she didn't understand these kobolds. She didn't like them. She waited for the guy to say something. Leon said yes, they are so annoying, although he does not claim to have enough experience in the role of a tank. Rita shouted, which is what she says, next time they go to research together. The guy asked that if it was convenient, he hoped they would do it there. Rita shouted that the drinks were over. Leon asked if there were no more snacks either. Maybe they would go buy more. Rita got up and said no. Then it's time to leave. The girl fell on Leon's bed. The guy excitedly asked if she was okay. Maybe she was a little tired. Rita looked at him and told him to listen to her. Rita said with a smile that there is only one thing they can do now. When a girl comes to a guy to take a little break from a hard day. Leon looked at her in surprise. Rita shook her tail from side to side and asked if she had made him wait too long. The guy awkwardly asked if she hadn't already thanked him. Rita said that good drinks and funny conversations are not gratitude, but just the beginning of the holiday. The girl looked at the guy and lay down more comfortably on the bed. Leon said that she had said that she would only treat him. Rita asked why she said that. The guy said that in any case, even such a thank you would be enough for him. Rita confusedly said that gratitude for saving her life in the form of alcohol and snacks was somehow unfair. Rita asked confusedly that he just didn't like rude girls like him. Leon looked at her in surprise. The girl said that her sisters said the same thing. She thinks if she changes it will be better. The guy said no. She's a very attractive girl. She is funny, and it is interesting to communicate with her. Rita joyfully shouted that then. Leon awkwardly said that he couldn't take responsibility in all that. Rita laughed out loud and asked that he really believed in all this. Leon excitedly replied that no, he didn't mean that. The girl blushed and said that there was nothing serious to do. She did not ask him to marry her. Leon remembered Miriam screaming that she wanted to marry him. Rita grabbed the guy by the arm and screamed at him not to think so deeply. The guy shouted what was going on. The girl hugged him and said that it would be just for that night. Leon hugged her back and buried his face in her stomach. He was very surprised that Rita made such a sudden move. He asked what was just for this one. Rita replied that yes, only a funny guy and a girl, and in the morning it would all be over. She's watching. He's interested in this adventure. Leon replied that he understood her. Rita dumped him on the bed with a loud laugh. She asked with a big smile that they could proceed. Leon blushed and looked at her intently. Leon looked into her eyes and asked if he could hug her. Rita blushed and said sheepishly that it was her gratitude. He can do whatever he wants. The guy replied that then. The guy hugged her tightly, and Rita looked at him in embarrassment. Leon straightened her clothes and asked her what she was starting to like. The girl blushed more deeply and replied that she was asking him very much. Leon noticed Rita's tail and grabbed it. The girl excitedly screamed at him to stop it and let it go. Leon asked what would happen. Rita shouted that if he continued. The guy didn't listen to her and squeezed his tail. The girl screamed loudly that she had told him to stop. She breathed loudly and asked what it was. Leon asked when exactly. The girl said that maybe it's because it's the first time. She's not very sure. Leon asked in surprise that she was saying this for the first time. Rita screamed at his face and told him not to say it so bluntly. Leon asked if it was okay that he was her first. The girl shouted that if she hadn't rested, it would have been a shame to death, so much more. Leon saw that all the conditions were met. The time of the sage begins right now. Rita exhaled wearily and asked that they could still meet. They could still lie down for a while. Leon replied that if she wanted it. She replied that if she wanted it. She replied that, thank you. The sage's time ended when morning came. Leon opened his eyes and quickly began to look for the girl, but she was nowhere to be found. He wondered excitedly where Rita was. Leon went downstairs and went into the dining room. The bartender noticed him and asked that he had a good time yesterday. Leon embarrassedly shouted that no. What was he saying? The guy replied that he shouldn't worry. At a time like this, it's quite good. The bartender said he should know that Rita is not interested in guys. Leon asked what. The guy replied that she had always had only women on her team, so he probably said too much. The guy stepped aside and said that, in general, everything happened. He asked what he had already chosen, what he would eat. Leon looked at him and said yes. Leon ate and went out into the main hall. He heard someone tell Mr. Leon to come over here. The guy turned and looked at the source of the sound in surprise. The guild worker said that the lord had left him a thank you letter. She asked if he could show his guild ID. Leon replied that he was fine. The girl took his card and looked at the guy. She said loudly that she was grateful for the wait. She asked to check his funds so that there are no mistakes. Leon took the ID and was surprised to think that there were 10 million. The girl said that if everything was correct, he should sign here. He replied that he was fine. Leon awkwardly asked what about Miriam. The girl replied that she seemed to be on vacation. Leon replied that this was it. He thought it was his fault. How did it happen? She said it wasn't his fault. She worked very hard, so on the advice of the guildmaster, she went on vacation. She awkwardly added that because of her, some people said that he was a bad person. She was asking for forgiveness. From now on, he can address her as an equal. Leon thought he understood. The girl replied that, thank you very much. The girl smiled broadly and said, well, then he wants something else. Leon confidently replied that he wanted to apply for the expedition right now. Leon came to the royal tower and thought that this old sign read like a royal one. For him, it's just some kind of picture. Different letters are engraved on the towers of each place. These are their names at the moment. Also, this letter becomes the name of the city near the tower and the surname of the lord. The guy continued to argue that before starting the journey, he needs to choose a starting point. Leon shouted with a smile that to the first floor, forward, to the top of the tower. He thought that the level of restriction was set according to the rank when exploring the tower. A solo researcher with a rank like him is only allowed to go up to the 45th floor. Last time it was D rank. Leon continued to argue that at least because of the limitation, the characteristics had decreased. Lydia's brother did it anyway. The guy opened the door and walked on. The guy thought that this time, the search starts from the ground floor to try a long-term solo outing. First, you need to determine where he can get to on his own. A monster appeared and quickly ran at the guy with the torch. Leon quickly shouted that he was summoning a demonic arrow. He hit the monster's head exactly and defeated it. Leon noticed the monster's tooth and picked it up with the thoughts that he expected. So far, there are no problems. When fighting weak opponents, you don't even need to waste time on treatment. The guy went to the 5th floor and noticed several monsters. One of them was a werewolf. Leon looked at him in surprise and thought that he was already the boss in such a place. The guy jumped high from his seat and hit the werewolf in the head. He wounded him and went to the smaller monsters. Leon also dealt with him quickly. Leon exhaled and looked at the rewards that fell from the monsters. The werewolf stepped aside and looked at him. The guy ran at him with his sword and cut him in half. The guy went to the 10th floor and killed all the monsters there. Then to the 12th floor and also dealt with all the monsters. Then there was the 15th floor and the 18th floor. On the 20th floor, he gathered all the awards again. Leon looked at his watch and thought that it had been 2 whole hours. It seemed to be good. He heard his stomach growl and thought it was time to take a break. Leon entered the safe zone and saw a team of 5 people. The guy looked at them and awkwardly said, "Hi." He didn't feel very comfortable in their company. People looked at him, but didn't say anything. Leon stepped aside and opened the screen with his items. He studied everything carefully and thought that, so. The guy laid a blanket on the ground and took out tea with a hot dog. He drank some hot drink and exhaled happily. He took his snack and thought that he would enjoy his appetite. Someone came up and asked him what he had sweet. Leon turned his head and saw the guy from the other team. He replied that he thought so. A new acquaintance said that it looked very tasty. The guys from his team shouted that he was a hopeless, sweet hot dog, no way. He looked at them with displeasure and said that he did not understand. The guy asked that he was the only one here. Leon turned his head to look at his new acquaintances and talk to them. The guy asked what kind of tea he had. Leon replied that he did. The guy awkwardly said that if it wasn't difficult for him, he would be glad if he would. Leon interrupted him and replied that no problem. He needed a cup. The guy picked up a mug and shouted with a smile that it would help them all a lot. Leon said that then it would come out in 100. The guy gave him a coin, and Leon shouted that thanks a lot. He thought that when exchanging something inside the tower, for example, any products or something else, you always need to repay something. Leon continued to reason that there was an unusual case the other day when he was passing water left and right. As a result, he received the award later, and this is past the relationship with Rita. He said they could drink everything. The guy shouted that he was serious. Thank you very much. He approached the girl from the team and said that the tea was so hot. She replied that yes, it was such a pleasant fragrance. Leon said with a smile that if they wanted, they could take more. The team gathered all their belongings and headed for the exit. The guy shouted that it was time for them, but they were very grateful for everything. Leon replied that yes, they should try their best there. Leon stretched and said with a smile that he needed to sleep for now. He poured water from a barrel into a kettle and used his power to heat it up. He made his tea. Leon stepped aside and took out his sleeping bag. He spread it out on the floor and climbed inside. The guy closed his eyes and fell asleep quickly. He was very tired today. The second day of research has arrived. Leon came to the 30th floor and began to fight monsters. The guy thought that from now on, the soldier's class would be a problem. We need to go as hard as we can. Leon touched his chest and said that physical strengthening, strengthening of feelings, strengthening of magic, and strengthening. The guy dealt with all the monsters, and then went to eat and get some sleep. The third day of research has arrived. Leo sat down on the floor and poured himself a cup of coffee. The guy with a smile thought that a cup of coffee to wake up. He was in the safe area of the 35th floor. Leon attacked a strong werewolf. He defended himself with his sword and thought that, as expected, from a soldier. The guy shouted loudly that he was calling for an electric discharge. The guy came to the 40th floor. He met a strong boss, but managed to deal with him easily. Leon exhaled and thought that there would be a lot of general-class monsters on the 40th. Leon stretched and thought that he wanted to rest outside the tower. You need to be in good physical shape. The guild employee said with a smile that he had done a good job. She happily added that it was amazing to walk 40 floors of the tower in just 3 days. Leon scratched his head awkwardly and began to look around the room. He wants to find someone. The girl said Miriam was still resting. Leon replied that that was how it was. She gave him a card and told him that this was his reward for the moment, when he could come next time. Leon replied that he would rest for about 2 days. She told him after that it was fine. She would be waiting for him. He went outside and looked at the starry sky. Leon thought that it was completely dark. He would stop at this inn for now. The guy went to rest. The guy came to a familiar place to meet his girlfriend. Amelia met him. She smiled broadly and said that he had come again. Leon hugged her tightly and asked if he hadn't promised. The girl hugged him back and said she was very glad. The guy said that he had not taken a bath for more than 3 days. She said he could do it first. They spent the whole day together. In the morning, Amelia woke up and looked at Leon. The guy said good morning with a smile. She asked if it wasn't already morning. He replied that yes, they were delayed. The guy hugged her tightly and said that they must have slept together all the time. Amelia said she was so glad to hear that. She needs 2 or 3 more days of rest. Leon asked what becomes much more interesting with the use of magic. I couldn't move after that last time either. She replied that everything was fine. Amelia looked into his eyes and smiled sweetly. She awkwardly said that only he could do that. Leon smiled broadly and replied that he was glad to hear that. Leon moved away from her and said that she had to get ready. Amelia asked that he was already leaving. The guy said that of course it was time for him to go. The second day came, and Leon came to the guild. The girl said that she was welcome. Leon said that he would like to apply. Suddenly someone called him. The guy turned his head and saw Lydia. She asked with a smile how he was doing. They haven't seen each other for a long time. He looks very cheerful. He replied with a smile that, yes, sort of. He asked that she was also applying to explore the tower. Lydia replied that yes, only before that she wanted to talk to him. He answered in surprise. What was wrong with him? The girl replied that she was, so she came right up. Lydia put her hand on her chest and asked with a big smile that he would not like to take her to his group. Leon looked at her in surprise and thought that this was a turnaround. The girl looked into Leon's eyes and excitedly asked that he would join her team. The guy blushed and looked at the girl awkwardly. He hadn't expected her to offer him such a thing. They went to the dining room to talk. They sat down at the farthest table. Leon excitedly said thank you so much for the invitation, but he wasn't sure. Leon blushed and asked confusedly if he was suitable for her team. Lydia smiled at his question and confidently replied that of course he was suitable. Everything was fine. The guy replied that that's how it was. Thanks a lot for her words. Lydia looked at him and awkwardly said that she would really like him to accept the invitation. He asked who she had invited besides him. Lydia replied that she had not invited anyone but him, if he doesn't mind. Leon interrupted her and asked with a smile that she was counting on the power of the sage. Lydia blushed deeply and turned away from the guy. She replied sheepishly that it was too. Leon thought that was the same thing. He asked that she was definitely ready. Because the Baron, Lydia raised her head and confidently shouted that there was no problem. Like her adventurer, she was also ready that she would not be able to return. He doesn't have to worry about it. Leon said that's how it is. But then she needs to prepare a replacement. Lydia said with a smile that she would soon entrust this to her older brother. Besides, the other big brother will be back soon. Leon asked what else the older brother was. Lydia replied that he, an adventurer like his father, traveled around the country. He heard that his father's team had been interrupted and put an end to his career. The girl smiled tenderly and excitedly added that because she must inherit her father's will and become a hero. Leon was surprised to think that she wanted to become a hero. The guy thought that he too, when he left the village and came to this city, wanted to become a hero. He met Wolf, and when he started the journey together, he was filled with expectations that he would gradually become stronger and be a hero, but only others became strong, leaving him behind. Leon continued to reason that he was alone. He thought he couldn't do anything without his comrades. But because he was alone, he learned to fight in his own way. The guy thought that living in this city wasn't so bad. He thought so, but... Leon lowered his head and excitedly asked the girl what she thought. She could become a hero. Lydia looked into his eyes and confidently shouted that yes, they will definitely be able to do it. Leon looked at the girl in surprise. He did not expect such a decisive answer. The guy thought that alone he was a master low-master red magician, but with her he would become a sage. Then he can dream again. Leon said they could. She says so. Lydia excitedly asked that he accept her offer. Leon replied that he also wanted to travel with Lydia. The girl looked at him happily. Leon added with a smile that he wanted to become a hero with her. Lydia smiled broadly at his words. The guy asked that she had already come up with a name for the team. She replied that there was actually one. She had looked at it for a long time. Lydia pointed her finger at him and shouted loudly that they were incomparable, ultimate determination. She looked very proud that she had come up with such a cool name. Leon clapped. He liked the name. Lydia proudly shouted that they, with their utmost determination, would be invincible. They will become the best adventurers. The guy said that the ultimate determination. Lydia shouted with a smile that yes, one day they would become heroes. Leon asked what the ultimate determination was. Lydia asked him what he didn't like. Leon asked if they didn't have too little determination for the limit. She asked what it meant. The guy replied that if we talk about the limit, it is better to strive for the top. Lydia said in surprise that it was the top, really. Leon looked into Lydia's eyes and confidently said that they could completely capture the most difficult tower on the continent, Unu. The girl excitedly replied that yes. The girl threw her arms around his neck, shouting that it was just wonderful. Leon shouted in surprise, "What is it?" He shyly told her to stop. People were looking at them. They came to the guild. The employee told him with a smile that she'd accepted the request to create a team. Ms. Lydia and Mr. Leon have the rank of C. Since the group consists of less than 2 people, she looked at the guy and the girl and added that incomparable ultimate determination starts at rank D. Lydia and Leon went to the dining room to discuss their plan. Leon said that so they could talk about their next steps. To begin with, their goal is to become heroes. From now on, you need to capture towers in all regions. But for this, you need to solve one task. The guy went on to say that it was necessary to capture the local Queen Tower. Lydia said that she also had a strict punishment from her brother before leaving the city. She must conquer the Queen Tower. Leon said that if they couldn't conquer the Queen Tower, they wouldn't even have to think about the Unu Tower. Now the question is not about strength, but about the limited ranks of the levels. Lydia replied that she did. The guy said that at the level of Teen D, they would not be allowed above the 40th floor. Fortunately, they have a C rank. They will be able to explore up to the 45th floor. That is, this rank is not enough to get to the 50th floor. Expeditions up to the 49th floor are allowed to C-Cranks teams. Leon excitedly said that in order to storm the top floor, one more condition is needed. Now their goal is to raise the rank of the team. They will do just that. The guy said that as a way it comes to mind, the two of them will continue to search and raise their reputation. Lydia replied that the problem was the number of people and the class. Leon thought that the rank of the team expressed the strength of the team. In simple words, classes in a party with more participants are rated higher than in a team with fewer participants. The guy lowered his head and sadly said that he was a red magician, so he asked for forgiveness. Lydia excitedly shouted at him not to worry. Balin is not that bad. They can handle it. The girl shouted with a smile that everything could be faster if they changed classes to a higher one. Leon asked with interest what her level was. She replied that it was level 39. Leon said with a smile that they would leave it then. It is better to do this after reaching the limit level. Then you can count on growth as soon as the class is raised. The guy said that if they want to become heroes, it's better to choose the opportunity to grow up more. Once the class is raised, it can't be canceled. Lydia replied that yes, he was right. Leon thought it would take a lot of time for the duo to raise their rank. A way to change that. The guy threw back his head and asked if he could increase the number of people. Lydia thoughtfully said that it was possible if they added 2 members of rank C. However, if they added more members. The girl blushed brightly, and Leon looked at her in surprise. Leon blushed brightly. He said that if so many people joined them, they could take over the tower, and he could remain a red magician. Lydia awkwardly said that then, in the future, the sage... Leon said that once you complete the assault and become a duo again, you can keep your rank. Lydia shouted joyfully that they could become a duo again. The girl leaned towards him and smiled broadly. She coughed in embarrassment when she realized she was being too loud. She blushed and said it wasn't that she only wanted to be with him. If it is necessary to increase the number of members, if he trusts them, she really wants them to perform. Leon awkwardly replied that about the next party member. He's thinking of taking Supporta. An adventurer of rank C, preferably with a high-level profession, but if such a convenient person. Suddenly, Rita came up to him. She said with a smile that she could see that they were talking about interesting topics here. Leon blushed and thought that in this city, Lydia said that she was from a chaotic, explosive flower. Rita asked with a smile, which means they are trying to find a support. They can tell you more. Rita asked with a smile that they needed a support. Leon looked at her excitedly and asked what it was. He hadn't expected such a question from a girl. Rita smiled broadly and replied that they were thinking of wandering around the center and went to the guild, and here they are. Lydia asked in surprise that the two of them and the other gentleman from the chaotic explosive flower. Rita said that they were in the hospital. Lydia excitedly asked that everything was bad. The girl replied that no, they were quite healthy, but the doctor did not prescribe them. She went on to say that if it wasn't for the agreement with the guild, they would have been cured in the tower. Lydia asked that the guild has a reason for this, first of all. Rita's friend said that there was no need to lecture here. The girl added that thanks to the medicine that Leon gave her, her wounds were healed. She rested a little and came back right away, thanks to him. Leon screamed that she was that scout. The girl said with a smile that, by the way, she had not introduced herself. Her name is Maya. Nice to meet you. Leon replied sheepishly that he did too, Ms. Maya. She said she was just Maya. Rita looked at Leon and Lydia and said that there were 2 macaws here. The girl asked what was perfect. They didn't think so. The couple looked at her in surprise. A familiar guard stood guard over the tower. He yawned loudly as it was very boring for him to stand alone and not move. Suddenly, he saw familiar faces and said with a smile that he was good. The guard hugged Leon by the neck and said with a grin that he had been alone quite recently, and then he glued 3 beauties together. He slapped him on the back, shouting for him to keep a good eye on them. Rita smiled broadly and shouted loudly that, "So, let's go on an expedition. It is not good for an extra to take on the role of a leader." She asked Leon if he could drive. The guy asked in surprise what he was doing. The guy looked at the girl and said that Lydia was the leader. She said in surprise that he was the leader of incomparable utmost determination. Leon asked in shock why was he the leader? Lydia smiled broadly and said that yes, because she thinks he is suitable for this role. Leon hesitantly said that he was a commoner red magician. The girl replied loudly that it was not important. Before that, she had already followed his instructions and was able to return alive from the expedition. Leon thought uncomfortably that she was being selfish. Leon said that it was necessary for the leader to go at the head and lead the others. Rita replied with a smile that it was like her. Maya said with displeasure that her sister only does what she rushes for without thinking. Lydia said that by taking a step back, he would be able to assess the situation and give appropriate instructions. She thinks that there will be no problems with such a leadership position. The girl continued to say that, and the avant-garde, it seems to her, he will master it. She thinks he'll make a great leader. The girl looked at Leon excitedly. The guy confidently shouted that he understood. He will do it. Lydia proudly said that in any case, she had already applied. Leon excitedly shouted that he knew. It's a matter of feelings. Just feelings. The guy cleared his throat and shouted that, okay, they should go. Leon stood in front of the girls and confidently shouted that they were going to the 41st floor. They have to go through it. They came to the 41st floor. Rita looked at the monsters and shouted furiously for the 6s to come to her. She hit the monster with her heavy shield with all her might. She took out her hammer and swung it. The monster managed to run away from her. Maya ran around the monster from behind, shouting that it was slow. She stabbed the knife into the monster's neck. Leon walked up to another monster and shouted that he was summoning lightning. He hit the monster with a huge lightning bolt. He raised his head and looked excitedly in front of him. Lydia ran at the monster with a smile and shouted at him to defend himself. She looked at the huge monster and shouted that she was going to deal with the orc general. Suddenly, an ordinary monster appeared in front of the orc general, who began to protect his leader. Lydia hit him with a cry of displeasure so that he would not get in the way. The general grunted loudly and raised his weapon above his head. Leon shouted to summon lightning. Maya threw a dagger at him and hit him in the shoulder, but nothing happened. Lydia hit the orc general with a loud shout, but he managed to dodge. The monster intercepted her spear and pointed it at the girl, who did not expect this at all. Rita ran towards her and deflected the blow of the orc general with the help of her huge shield. Lydia took advantage of the moment and hit the monster while he was busy with another girl. They destroyed all the orcs and got their meat and teeth. Lydia shouted loudly that this was a victory. Leon thought that this expedition was designed for 4 nights and 5 days. He looked at Rita and Maya and thought that it was because they had accepted additional C-Crank members into the team, namely Rita and Maya. The Peerless Ultimate Determination team, as a C-Cranked team, received permission for an expedition up to the 49th floor. Leon picked up a piece of meat and thought that the first day was up to the 44th floor. The second day was up to the 47th floor. On the third day, they reached the stairs to the 50th floor. Then, 2 days later, they go down to the 41st floor and return through the portal. They came to the 44th floor, namely, the safe zone. Rita asked with a smile how they would be distributed. Leon replied that there were 4 of them. They were divided into 2. 2 were resting in shifts. 2 were guarding. Lydia asked with a smile what she could share in batches. Rita blushed and excitedly asked that the princess and Leon would sleep. It wasn't fair. Lydia screamed in embarrassment that she was saying such a thing. The girls looked at each other. Rita awkwardly asked if she didn't mind being alone with Leon. Lydia blushed and asked if she didn't mind. Rita excitedly replied when the adventurers, a man and a woman, were together. She replied that there was nothing to be done. Rita asked what they were. Lydia blushed and asked what. Maya shouted with a smile that, by the way, the self-defense forces had recently patrolled the upper floors. Lydia excitedly asked what the self-defense forces were. This is a problem. It's a very big problem for them. Rita replied that she did. If you think about it carefully, it's dangerous. Leon said that then. Leon looked at the girl and asked with a smile, what if he stayed with Maya? The girl excitedly asked what? She was with a man. The two of them in the same room. The guy replied with a smile that no, Rita and Lydia would sleep next to each other. So not just the two of them. Maya breathed heavily and said that was right. Then if it was the best solution. He excitedly asked what happened. She replied that everything was fine. Suddenly, she fell into Rita's arms, who told her to calm down. She was here. It's okay. She's here. She will always be there. So she needs to calm down. The girl said with tears in her eyes that she was asking for forgiveness. Rita patted her on the head and said there was no need to apologize. She didn't do anything wrong. Maya hugged her tighter and said several times that it was good. Rita looked at Leon and asked if he could stand guard alone. The guy replied that it was fine, no question. Rita asked if the princess was okay with it. Lydia replied, if Leon didn't mind. She said thank you. They will sleep here tonight. She said thank you. They will sleep here tonight. Lydia lay down on her bedspread, and Rita lay down next to Maya. The girls fell asleep quickly after such a hard day. Leon sat down next to them so as not to disturb their sleep and keep watch. The guy thought that the bartender had told him that the woman from the chaotic flower explosion team had an incident with a man in the past. The guy quickly shook his head from side to side. Leon watched as Rita began to wake up. She came up to him with a smile and sent him to bed. He went to the sleeping bag and climbed into it. He fell asleep quickly. Suddenly, he heard someone calling him. He opened his eyes and saw Lydia. She said with a smile that it was already 6 in the morning. It was time for him to get up. The guy rubbed his eyes and said, "Good morning." The girl responded in kind. Leon looked towards the other girls. Maya came up to him with a mug of tea and said she was sorry for yesterday. Leon replied with a smile that everything was fine. He had a good rest. He thought it was good. She seemed to have calmed down. Rita sat down next to him and asked if he would like coffee. Leon got out of his sleeping bag and replied that, yes, thank you. The guy thought that they continued the expedition without any problems. Leon continued to reason as planned, and on the evening of the 5th day, they returned safely. The entire team stood within the walls of the guild unharmed. They stood in front of the girl from the guild. She sadly said that she was asking for forgiveness, but they could not allow them to reach the 50th floor. Leon asked, shocked, what? He thought that the reputation for this expedition was not enough. The guy asked what if they made another pass. The girl said that there was nothing she could do on her part. Leon asked hopefully if they would return to the duet. The guild worker smiled awkwardly and said loudly that then, after reviewing their team rank, he would be D. The team went outside to talk. Rita said that their friends would recover soon. They could try to increase the team, as he had such an idea. Leon replied that if the number of members increased when they returned to the duo, the score would be worse. He is thinking of continuing to patrol the number of participants, however. Lily confusedly said that then they would give them trouble. Rita replied that it was true. There might be another visit to make. Luan replied with a smile that he hoped to rise to the C rank next time. Maya excitedly called her sister. Rita asked what it was. The girl awkwardly mumbled what it was. Suddenly, she stopped talking and then said loudly that it was nothing. Maya turned her head and stared at Leon. Rita looked at her sister awkwardly. Leon didn't notice anything and said they could rest tomorrow. The guy asked that they would gather at the guild the day after tomorrow. Rita replied that she did. Lydia said with a smile that it was good. The couple said goodbye to Maya and Rita, and then went home. Leon noticed that Maya looked at him with displeasure, and then quickly turned around. He scratched his head awkwardly. The guy couldn't figure out what was wrong. It was the middle of the night. The sun rose, and Leon went about his business. He went to the butcher, and then to the drinks vendor. Leon went into the dining room to eat. The bartender said he had a visitor. He asked in surprise what the visitor was. He was told that he was in that corner. The bartender asked if he didn't mind the evening light. Leon replied that yes, so the guy said, he's popular here. Leon awkwardly replied that she was just an adventurer friend. Leon came up to the table and said hello, Maya. The girl looked at him excitedly and said yes, good evening. Leon sat down in front of Maya and asked what was wrong with her today. The girl excitedly said that, as it were, she would really like to talk to him. The guy listened attentively to her. Maya excitedly asked that it was dinner now, so it was better after. Leon asked what they could eat together. She said loudly that she had already eaten, so it was not worth it. A waitress came up to them and put the dishes on the table. She said with a smile that she was grateful for the wait. Maya asked if she could pour another drink. She replied that yes, of course. Leon asked if he could have a bottle then, and he needed to bring him a glass. The waitress replied that she was listening. She would do everything now. Maya excitedly said that she would pay for the drinks. The guy said with a smile that no, he would pay, she could pay. Maya shyly shouted that she wasn't. She would like him to listen to her. Leon said he wanted to make a toast. The girl quickly drank a glass. Maya poured another glass and said it didn't matter. He could eat in peace. The girl began to drink glass after glass, and the guy looked at her in surprise. They quickly finished their meal. Maya excitedly said that she was asking for forgiveness. It seemed that she was rushing him. Leon replied with a smile that fast is a necessary skill for an adventurer. Leon looked at the red Maya and excitedly asked that everything was fine. The girl looked at him wearily and replied that yes, everything was fine. He asked her what she knew about her team. Maya said that this is a team for girls with a tradition of more than 50 years. Leon asked that which is headed by Rita, the 5th leader. She said that the girls of this city would be happy to join this team. Leon replied with a smile that he understood. Maya blushed and awkwardly said yes, but he did. She stopped talking and began to drink quickly straight from the bottle. The guy shouted in shock that the girl looked into his eyes and shouted loudly that they should go to his room. Leon excitedly said what was going on. They can talk here. Maya lowered her eyes and awkwardly said that she didn't want anyone to hear. The guy looked at her in surprise but decided to comply with her request. They ended up in his room. Maya sat down on the bed and exhaled wearily. Leon remembered his meeting with Rita in this room and thought that they would not just talk, he was sure of it. The girl said tensely that this guy was an adventurer from another tower. She was new to the adventurers, and he offered to help her, so they met. Maya went on to say that she was just thrilled that it was only a few days later that her level and rank rose so quickly. A sense of superiority seized her, and she wanted to be the best of everyone. But one day, he began to force her to go to the middle level of the tower. She said that nowhere was safe, on an ordinary floor where monsters roam. The guy pinned her against the wall and did not let her move so that she would not escape. He told her that if she didn't do what he said, he would leave her here. Maya said that this was the place where it was simply impossible to survive without support. If there had been an atmosphere, it would have been fine. But she got so angry and began to desperately resist. He hit her so hard that she couldn't move. Maya said she thought he was going to kill her, but then he showed up. The villain got hit on the head with a baton. Maya went on to say that the soldier is a lizard man. At that moment, she couldn't even fight opponents of the rank of captain, not to mention the soldier's level. The girl continued to say that she covered her ears with her hands and thought she was going to die. Suddenly, she was hugged tightly. It turned out to be Rita. The girl said she was sorry it was so late. Maya said it appeared that the man had used the same methods to attack other adventurers. It seemed to her that the guild was also breaking the rules. She reported it, but the victim didn't tell her anything, so she asked Chaotic Explosive Flower to deal with him. The girl said with a smile that Rita apologized for arriving so late. She thanked her sister by becoming a member of the team. They saved her, and she joined them. Maya hugged her knees and said that in the end, nothing happened. She thought that she would be able to return to the life of an adventurer without any problems. But men, she is afraid of them. She added that in general, of course, she is better now. At first, just noticing the men, she immediately remembers that incident. She couldn't even breathe. Maya said that now she can communicate with men when her friends are around, but if they are alone, no. Just thinking about it, she gets scared. Leon awkwardly asked that it was just the two of them now. Everything was fine. Maya smiled broadly and said yes. They had explored so much together. He is an adventurer who is trusted by his sister. Maya awkwardly said she was sorry. But that was a lie. Perhaps if he stood up, she would scream loudly. If she hadn't had a drink, she wouldn't even have said a word in the dining room. The girl exhaled several times. Leon looked at her excitedly and thought that maybe he should tell her something just now. Maya called Leon loudly. The girl screamed loudly that they should hug tightly. She wants to become strong. No, she has to become strong. She must overcome her fear of men and become stronger. She lowered her head and said she had to. She asks for forgiveness, but it can only ask him for that. But that doesn't mean he has to. She would understand if he refused. She would understand if he refused. She was even able to enter his room today. Maya looked up and saw that Leon had come up to her. She screamed loudly. The guy with a big smile asked what he could do. The girl screamed in embarrassment. What is it? She straightened the bedspread and excitedly said that, of course. Leon said that if she was scared, she should just say so. The guy came up to her and told her to look here. The girl looked at him and screamed in fright that he was so close. Maya turned away from him, and Leon, on the contrary, leaned towards her. He said that if she wanted him to have fun. Maya replied that she wanted to. Leon asked her if she was sure she wanted this. Maya blushed and excitedly said that, of course. Leon is so good. He said he wasn't pushing her. She said that the pressure is only if a little, not at all. Maya looked at him and confidently said that it was necessary. For her, this is an obstacle that she must overcome. She asks for forgiveness, but he is like an obstacle for her. She asked confusedly what she needed to do. Leon said they could hold hands first. Maya said that it was fine. She needed to take his hand. Leon took her hand and said that her hand was so warm. She said it was probably because of the drinks. The guy told her to close her eyes. She did so. Leon leaned over and kissed her quickly. The girl blushed brightly. He asked with a smile what the first kiss was. She confusedly said that she was with a man. Leon hugged her tightly. He excitedly asked that everything was fine. The girl said with tears in her eyes that she had allowed the man to touch her. It's okay. They can go all the way. Leon released her and looked at her excitedly. The girl said that she was asking for forgiveness. Leon asked her if she was more worried about him. She replied that she did. Leon thought with a smile that her idea of getting used to men was very strange. He asked with interest that they had come this far. Wasn't that enough? Maya tilted her head and considered her words. Leon awkwardly asked what it was. The girl turned and asked tensely that they could go to the tower now. Leon thought that it went without saying, but the tower has no concept of operating time. Late at night and early in the morning, monsters roam there without rest, which is very dangerous. The guy continued to reason that, however, at the end of the adventurer guilds, it was definitely working time. Usually shortly before sunrise and a little after sunset, Leon thought that from now until the new day, only supplies of items and search requests are accepted. Maya came up to the guy and said she was sorry for being late. Leon looked at her and excitedly asked how she was feeling. The gait is very awkward. Maya awkwardly replied that it still hurt a little, but everything was fine. The guild employee said that the expedition request from the 21st floor was accepted. He asks them to be more attentive. If they can return before the change of the calendar day, they will not be allowed into the city until the morning. Leon and Maya went outside. The guy with a big smile said that Lydia and the guys would gather here in the morning, so they had 4 hours for the expedition. She replied that they had had enough. They teleported to the 21st floor. Maya asked him if he would treat her. He said that the guild forbids treating wounds received in the tower. The guy did it anyway. Maya said that the application was approved, so everything is fine. They reached the 25th floor. Leon pointed to the corridor and said that the route to the top was there. They needed to go there. Maya confidently told him to follow her. They stopped in front of the wall, and the girl said it was here. The girl touched the wall and said that the guy attacked her here. Maya touched her forehead to the wall and then turned to the guy. She asked that he could hug her here. They smiled at each other. She said they don't know what's in there, so they'll do it quickly. Leon was surprised to say that she had become somewhat active, not to say that she had no experience at all until recently. Maya said that it was the first time with a guy. Maya said that, to be honest, it was scary to come here. When they came to this floor and went here, she remembered that time. She hugged herself to calm down. The girl continued to say that it was painful and scary, but most of all, it was insulting. She smiled and added that she invited him to get over it. He asked for forgiveness, but she uses him again. Leon replied that everything was fine. Maya replied with a smile that thanks. When she thinks she's going to do this to him, what happened doesn't matter anymore somehow. She said that the thought of doing it here with him overshadowed all the bad things that happened to her here, and because of it, he can look at her. The guy listened attentively to her. Leon leaned over and said he would do it now. He hugged her, and Maya screamed loudly why everything was so different now. He said that because of the magic of support, the feelings became sharper. She said it was great. Maya added that he would make her forget about all the bad things. Leon hugged her tighter and told her that she could rely on him. The girl screamed loudly. He thought it was a bad thing. Leon touched her stomach and said that healing. He cured the girl. Maya breathed wearily and said she thought she was going to die. He said that he was asking for forgiveness. Because of the increased feelings, the pain became sharper. Maya replied with a smile that she understood. She suggested that we continue to do only pleasant things. Leon said with a smile that if it hurt, he would cure her. She said, "Come on. All conditions are met. The time of the sage is activated." Leon took her on his lap and carried her through the corridors. He smiled and told Maya to wake up. The girl yawned, and then excitedly shouted what had happened. Leon replied with a smile that they were in front of the portal on the 21st floor. Just in time, it was time to return. The girl excitedly shouted that she was asking for forgiveness in front of him. The girl said sheepishly that she was sorry again. She asked why he was alone before coming here. Leon replied with a smile that she felt so good he didn't want to wake her up. She said with displeasure that this was a failure. Maya blushed and awkwardly spoke so that he would listen to her. She excitedly asked what was amazing in the middle, but she was worried about something. Leon blushed and thought about how the sage had earned he redirected the support magic and hugged her to death. She said she was so sweet, he must have gotten a taste for it. Maya said it was time to go back. They came to the guild and handed over the items and then went outside. Leon excitedly asked her if she was really happy with him. The girl replied sheepishly that then. She said he put a support magic on her. She's still not good at dealing with lizards. Sometimes there are other soldiers there, and she was scared, but she was surprisingly calm with him. Maya said that at that time she thought that the boy had bewitched her, all thanks to the support. Thinking about it, my heart felt warm. He not only helps his sister and the guys, but also helps Lydia. Besides, he and his sister did it. She said with a smile that she thought he was someone her sister could rely on, so she trusted him completely. He had a hard time with her. He said, no. Maya said that she was leaving here, thanks for everything, but she would say more. The girl stopped and asked with a smile that he was going to go on. Leon remembered the conversation with Lydia. They said their goal was to become a hero, completely conquer the Unu Tower. The guy confidently said yes. Maya told him to take his sister with him. She is not the adventurer who has everything finished in the city. If he wants to become a hero, he will need strength. The girl bowed low and shouted loudly that she begged him to take his sister with him. Leon waved his bows and excitedly asked what she was doing. Maya looked at him, and with a smile, told him to think about her request, and then tell her the answer. The girl waved at him and shouted that she would see him tomorrow. The girl quickly ran away, but Leon did not have time to say anything. Morning came and the whole team gathered in the guild. Rita looked at Maya with displeasure and asked that she was late. The girl replied with a smile that she was sorry, it was a small matter. Lydia said it was okay, no need to worry. Leon said they could have something to eat first, and then they could decide on the next course. Maya shouted for him to stop. She excitedly asked what they could look at first. Rita asked in surprise that she was so strange. Lydia replied that she thought it didn't make sense. Maya shouted that she was asking for them very much. The guild employees said they were allowed to explore the 50th floor. Leon asked in surprise why there hadn't been much change. The girl replied that they had one more person with a high-level profession. Leon asked, shocked, which was one more thing. Everyone looked at Maya. The girl said with a wide smile that she went to the guild first thing in the morning. She changed her class to an assassin. Rita asked loudly that she had only recently been level 35. Maya proudly replied why she was so nervous. Sitting in one place, they won't get to level 99. We need to get high-level professions faster. Rita replied that maybe she was right, but something was wrong. Leon said that even if she became an assassin, at level 1 he wasn't much different from a scout. Maya said she explained it to them. Lydia interrupted her and said that maybe she was late. Maya said with a big smile that she went to the tower and upgraded to level 10. Lydia said she understood. Even in a high-level profession, if your level is low, leveling is fast. Leon said that in addition, there is a much greater difference between a level 10 assassin and a level 45 scout in their reputation. Rita shouted in displeasure that she had gone to the tower alone. Suddenly, a girl appeared, saying that she had helped her. The team turned around and saw two girls. Leon was surprised to think that this was the magician and priest from the chaotic explosion of the flower. She said they wanted to go into the tower while the wounds were being poured. Another said they were just in time. The archmage said it was a good opportunity. The pastor shouted that they had recently received high-level professions. Rita asked in surprise when they had time. Maya asked her sister with a smile that this was the generation that would soon replace them. Rita shouted that they hadn't grown up yet. They should discuss further actions in the dining room. Lydia bowed and said she was grateful to Maya. She replied that no thanks were needed. The time has come when they need to carry the name of the chaotic explosive flower on their shoulders. Leon smiled at the girls. Maya noticed this and looked at him confidently. The archmage and the pastor bowed as the guy walked past them. Leon didn't expect him to do that. The team sat down at the table and started eating. Leon said he was worried about the level of Maya's new profession. Rita asked him what he thought about extending the schedule of their expedition. Maya replied that yes, if you swing, it will be more effective to do it in the area of the 49th floor. Lydia said that when they enter the 50th floor, the portal of return will work. So, there won't be any problems. Leon got up from his seat and shouted loudly, which means they have decided. The guy looked at the girls and thought that this expedition would last 5 days and 4 nights. He continued to reason that, aiming for the 50th floor, they started from the 41st. They had Maya, who had just changed classes, but she became stronger. The expedition went according to plan, however. They completed the first day earlier. The second day of the expedition has arrived. Maya said with a smile that, before she knew it, she was exhausted. She slept well. Leon thought that the day before yesterday she continued the expedition until the new day. Leon continued to argue that besides that, everything happened. In the morning she ran to change classes and swing. In this state, she started a new expedition, a heavy schedule. Maya looked in front of her and shouted loudly that there was something ahead, right around the corner. Apparently, the lizard is a general with soldiers. Lydia was surprised to say that she felt the lizards from such a distance. It was amazing. The girl replied that it was all thanks to the magic of support. Leon thought it was all thanks to the class change. Rita asked if she was okay. Maya said that everything was fine. She relies on her sister a lot. Rita glanced at the lizards. She screamed furiously that Maya could rely on her. She told the monsters to fight her. The girl activated the provocation and dealt with the monster. Maya shouted that she was doing well. Leon thought that the next thing to do was to deal with the lizards who had lost all control and continued to push. They dealt with everything quickly. Lydia said that thanks to Maya, everything went well. Maya said they saved their boss's fucking strength. Leon thought that they were continuing to move forward smoothly. Leon continued to argue that on the 4th laziness, Maya had reached level 18, and Lydia had improved a little, but Rita's level had not increased. Maybe it's become harder to swing in this tower. The last day of the expedition has arrived. Leon looked at his friends and shouted joyfully that they can move out. By the 50th floor, a little bit before the complete conquest. Leon shouted that he was using magic enhancement. They're breaking into the top floor right now. He increased Lydia's physical damage, Rita's perception enhancement, and Maya's defense. The guy went inside and thought that the last floor was the Royal Tower, the 50th floor. He saw that there was a royal goblin here, and the Kobold King was walking next to him. Rita said with a smile that it had been a long time since she had fought with the royal class. Rita said loudly that it was her first time. Lydia shouted that it was her first time, too. The Orc King came forward with the Lizard King. They stood in front of the group and prepared to attack. They were going to deal with people quickly. Leon said that everything was fine. The royal class scares not only with strength, but with leadership. But still, they need to be on their guard. Werewolves, for example, are stronger alone. Rita tapped the shield with her hammer and ran into battle. She screamed that in that case, they would reduce the number of weaklings first. Lydia ran forward and shouted for everyone to get ready. She hit the orc, but it managed to deflect the blow. She screamed that he had dodged. Leon thought that from a tactical point of view, the next target is the Kobold King, but the weakest among the royal class is the Goblin King. The guy looked at the monster and continued to argue that the usual tactic is to destroy the Lizard King, who has excellent stealth skills. Leon hit him with a thunderclap several times. Maya got close to the monster from behind and used the killing skill with a fatal blow. The other boss started running at her, but Leon managed to shoot him with a thunderbolt. He quickly started shooting lightning at him, but the monster defended himself with his shield. Leon shouted that it was okay. He swung his sword and struck at the monster, which dodged again. Maya managed to stick a knife in his side. The monster screamed loudly in pain and fell to the ground. Lydia went to another monster and blew off its head. Rita was fighting another monster behind her back. Rita hit him with her hammer and shouted for him to get it. Lydia ran into battle shouting that there was a hole in the armor. She hit the monster, but couldn't hurt it much. She awkwardly said it was a blow. Rita hit him with a hammer, and this time the monster couldn't resist. She said he was a tough nut to crack. Maya and Leon looked at them with smiles. They got together after the battle. Lydia laughed out loud and proudly shouted that it was an absolute victory. That's how their last day in the dungeon went. They came to the guild and immediately went to the dining room. The team sat down at the table and ordered mugs of drinks. They shouted joyfully that they could celebrate the success. Rita's friends joined them. The girl said that in total there are only 2 of them. They never got the right to challenge on the top floor. Somehow, not very well. Leon awkwardly replied that to some extent it was expected. Lydia said she was a little upset, but Leon looked calm. The guy replied that it was because they were 1 step away from success. Maya said that Leon was able to capture the tower with 2 groups, which is, of course, a positive thing. Maybe the 3 of them will only fight next time. Leon said it was difficult. Maya said that then maybe it would be a good idea for the mistress to join the incomparable Ultimate Determination team. Rita said she seemed tired. The girl said she thought it was a good idea. She added with a smile that she thinks their leaders can achieve a lot. She asked that the princess and Leon continue on their way. Lydia replied that yes, she would like to become a hero. The girl shouted with a smile, which is fine. The day their leader becomes a hero, they will be proud of them. Her friends said that the rank of commander is not a step worth stopping at. Rita said with a sad smile that the hero was not so bad. She quickly drank drunk and put the mug on the table with a loud bang. Rita said that the chaotic explosive flower is best for her. She added that now it was their turn to carry out the seizure. Maya has a good idea of the enemy's movement. Maya excitedly replied that, of course. Rita abruptly got up from her seat and said loudly that then they would rest today, and tomorrow they would hold a strategic meeting, and after tomorrow they would enter the tower. Rita asked the princess and Leon if they could say that it was at their expense. Leon said with a smile that this was the case. Lydia confidently replied that, of course. Rita waved her hand and told Leon that if they needed any more help, they could contact him. She thanks again for the treat, but she has to go. Everyone looked after her until she left. Maya awkwardly said that he knew. She had no words. She apologizes that the conversation turned out to be awkward. Leon replied so that she wouldn't worry. Maya excitedly told him to listen to what was being said about him. Lydia interrupted her and said with a smile that she should focus on the full strategy now. Maya looked at her in surprise, but then smiled broadly and replied that it was fine. The 3 girls stood up and said thank you for today, but they have to go. Lydia and Leon left the guild. Lydia exhaled and said that she was so tired. Leon looked at her with a smile and then told her to listen to him. He asked her what her future plans were. Lydia said that yes, they needed to discuss everything properly. The 2 of them needed to. The girl asked if they could have dinner somewhere today, what he thought. Leon replied that it was fine, but where? Lydia asked him if he knew the Soaring Dragon Palace. Night fell, and the couple gathered in a beautiful place. Leon thought it was the Soaring Dragon Palace, the most luxurious hotel in the city of Queen, where even commoners are allowed to stay. Leon continued to reason that it is located in the so-called aristocrat district, where many wealthy people live. Everyone here is so heavily dressed. Unlike the people who gather in the guild, Leon looked at his new suit and thought that it seemed to him that this suit was suitable. He bought it in a hurry at some store. The guy tensely went inside. Leon blushed and approached the receptionist. He excitedly said he was sorry. He had a seat reserved. The girl asked if she could find out his name. The guy replied that he was Leon. The girl said with a smile that she was welcome to Mr. Leon. He can provide her with his ID card. Leon replied that yes, here is his guild card. She replied that thanks to him, he should take the elevator to the 10th floor. The guy got into the elevator and quickly reached the 10th floor. He got out of it and walked up to the man who showed him the direction. He went into a beautiful restaurant. The man pointed to a table with the words that his companion was there at that table. Leon sat down at the table and said he was sorry for the wait. Lydia said with a smile that it was okay, she had just arrived. Leon looked at the girl in surprise. She looked very beautiful. Lydia noticed this and giggled at him. The guy awkwardly said that thanks a lot for the invitation. Lydia exhaled and said that it was finally just the two of them. They can start the research. Leon said, that's how it is. The girl said that she thought it would be better to have a thorough conversation with him before that. Leon replied that he did. He wondered if, from now on, the two of them were going to explore the use of the sage's time. They will need to hug once an hour, but they have not yet clarified each other's intentions. The guy excitedly said that they definitely need to discuss this. Lydia smiled and waved her head. The girl said yes, but first they would talk about something else. She went on to say that she would like to inform him of her plans. He asked what the plans were. Lydia replied that how the research would proceed. She would like to talk about this in more detail. Lydia said that besides, would he be able to understand her correctly? She thinks it all needs to be clarified. Leon replied that he did. He wondered if he didn't approve of Lydia's position. Did that mean the group would be disbanded? The waiter came up saying that he had brought snacks from their establishment. Lydia said they would talk about the details later, but now they can enjoy the meal. Leon replied that he was fine. Lydia said that she suggests leaving it to the formation of an incomparable ultimate determination. She asked about the complete takeover of the royal tower. Leon asked what? The girl laughed and said with a smile that for them. Leon replied that for them. He wanted to knock glasses together, but Lydia did not let him do it. She said there weren't many glasses in a place like this. Leon replied sheepishly that he did. Beautiful dishes were brought and placed in front of the couple. Leon began to eat quickly. He was very hungry. Lydia carefully cut the food into small pieces and ate slowly. The guy was watching her enthusiastically. The table was empty, and only the glasses with drinks remained. Leon said that about their conversation. Lydia replied that yes, but there are a lot of people here. It's a little awkward. The girl excitedly asked that she could therefore go to the room if he didn't mind talking there. Leon asked in surprise what the room in this hotel was. Lydia replied that yes, that's right. The guy excitedly thought that she was inviting him into the room. Leon exhaled and thought that they just had something to talk about without extra ears, nothing more. They entered a spacious room. Leon saw beautiful and new furniture. He looked at everything in shock. He thought that this was the number, a suite in a luxury hotel. How much does it cost per person? Lydia came over with a tray and asked if he wanted to sit down and have a glass. Leon looked at her in surprise and replied that, of course. They bunked glasses. Leon and Lydia had a few drinks. The girl said that one of her brothers is an adventurer. Leon asked if it was Mr. Bartow. She replied that he was well informed, although he was famous. Leon thought he was the son of Jim Queen, the leader of the heroic Heavenly Seven 10,000 Fights Party. If we talk about Bartholomew, there is not a single soul who does not know him. Lydia said with a smile that Bartow's brother did not receive any support from their family, but he was successful as a lone adventurer. The girl is very proud of her brother. Leon asked that as far as he knew he was coming back. Lydia replied confidently that she did. The guy said that he thought so. The reason was his father. She said that partially, however. She went on to say that they had lost one of their longtime members some time ago. It seems to have affected him a lot. Now they are in search of a new member. But word came from her father, and she took advantage of this opportunity. Lydia raised her head and said with a smile that her father was different from her brother. He made the most of the Kuvan family's power. Leon replied that it looked like she had suddenly headed to the Tower. She said that the Queen family used their wealth and power to equip the best equipment, hired talented handymen at a high price. The girl continued to say that this is why she would like to ask the father or brother who is right. Leon confidently replied that he was definitely a father. Lydia said with a smile that he answered quickly. The guy said it was because her father had become successful. Lydia said that just because you're successful doesn't mean they're all cheering up, because she's right. She went on to say that in the eyes of people, this is aristocratic fun. Some people are horrified by their father's activities. The girl looked down sadly. Leon said that being an adventurer is hard, especially when it comes to heroism. You use everything you have, you do your best, and you don't know if you're going to achieve your goal or not. That's what it means to be a hero. The guy continued to talk like Mr. Bardo. He came to this on his own. Some people could have become heroes, but he thinks that they did everything they could. Leon clasped his hands and spoke tensely. It takes a lot of effort to achieve something. Adventurers aren't skilled enough to keep giving their best. He went on to say that the way her father used everything he had without fear of notoriety. He believes this is the right path for an adventurer. Lydia listened to him carefully. Lydia said with a smile that a stone had fallen from her soul. She had the same opinion about her father and brother as she did. She is glad that they think the same way and everything is fine. Leon awkwardly said he was sorry he had no right to discuss her family. Lydia asked what he was saying. That's why they're discussing it, to find out everything. The girl said tensely that this was the case. You will have to come to terms with two things. The guy began to listen to her attentively. She said the first thing is to help her family. She said that first of all, they would make it more staffed. In addition, consumables in large quantities will be highly effective. Lydia said that if the need arises in the future, they will recruit the best adventurers, as well as hire freelance staff. Leon replied that he understood what else. The girl said tensely that it was a shame. If he uses her family's powers to act with her, then he won't escape notoriety. It's very likely. Leon replied with a smile that he could see the Red Magician sitting on the princess's neck. He's sure they'll say something like that. It makes him laugh a lot. Lydia excitedly said that yes, he could handle it. The guy replied that no problem. Actually, he's nothing without her, but he's resigned. She screamed loudly that she wasn't. She screamed loudly that she wasn't. Lydia confidently said that Leon was very much needed. He should think it over carefully. The girl asked that he was the only wise man in the world. She was right. Leon awkwardly replied that in order for him to become a sage, he needed her cooperation. Lydia replied that it was not necessary, that it should be her. The guy blushed and thought that, of course. Rita or Maya or any other woman. Lydia said that because she knew each other's opinions, she showed what she was capable of. The girl added with a smile that she, like her father, uses everything she finds. Leon thought he could use whatever he could. He got it right. The guy continued to reason that his own abilities and the power of the nobility offered to him. In return, he would give her his sage powers. That's the thing. Leon thought that's why it's a profitable relationship. He said that's what it means. I got it. They had a great discussion. Lydia replied that she was grateful to him. Leon stood up and said that he would leave it at that. Lydia excitedly asked where he had gone. Leon asked in surprise what it was. She replied that if they had finished the discussion, he thinks it's time for him to go back. The girl asked what to return. She cried out in embarrassment why he was talking about it. He understood her train of thought at all. Leon replied with a smile that they were offering each other strength. She replied that she was sure. He said that's why they met at the guild. The girl said in shock that she could. She looked at her and asked with displeasure that, really, he thinks that he only needs the power of a sage. Leon asked uncertainly that no, he was wrong. Lydia screamed loudly that he was still wrong. They put their glasses on the table and sat down opposite each other. They were silent for a few minutes and just looked at each other. Lydia exhaled and said that they had dealt with the werewolf together and returned home when Ryan reported his father missing. She felt as if she had been doused with ice water. The girl added, as she had already said, that she was ready to become an adventurer. To be honest, it didn't upset her too much. Lydia looked calmer now. She said when she looks back at the past, she remembers something very important. Leon, who saved her life. The Red Magician who saved her life, she met him. Lydia thought when he came to the rescue while they were fighting the Goblin Lord, when he helped him escape from the werewolf. Leon was not a sage. He was a Red Magician. Leon said that at that time, he had already been strengthened by the skills of a sage. He was no longer just a Red Magician. Lydia said that he wasn't strong enough to resist back anyway. Not strong enough. She added that that's why she ran away. But he didn't go down. He just went to a safe area. Leon said Rita and the others were down there. Lydia said that he did not involve other people. And if we talk about it, the girl excitedly said that Leon was all she could think about. Leon blushed and excitedly said that Lydia was talking about it. Lydia asked him what he thought, that he needed a sage. Lydia blushed brightly and said when he left, she didn't want to come back. Leon excitedly said no, because it was. The girl asked him that he didn't believe a single word she said. The girl grabbed his head and pulled him towards her. She hugged him to her and said that she had only one wish. Lydia said she wanted Leon. Lydia excitedly asked that Leon could hear her heart pounding. The guy snuggled up to the girl and could really hear how fast her heart was pounding. The girl excitedly said that it was because she was an aristocrat. She has a habit of holding her face regardless of emotions. However, there is something she cannot hide. Leon looked at her and said when they escaped from the werewolf, he went to the safe zone instead of going down to the floor below. Because he respected her intentions and more. He had an ulterior motive. The guy looked into Lydia's eyes and said he wanted her. He couldn't think of anything else, and he could have done it any other way, but he didn't. He often remembers that he was her first. He made her cry. Lydia confusedly said that it was like a moment between life and death, her first experience. She couldn't sort out her feelings, was confused, and cried involuntarily. Leon said that, however, Lydia raised his head and said that she was able to win over Sage Leon as a night princess. There is nothing like Lydia's feelings in this. Like an ordinary woman. The girl went on to say that at the time he appeared in front of her while she was fighting and called her name. He stole her heart. She's sure of it. The guy kissed her and picked her up. They hugged tightly, and the guy thought that all the conditions were fulfilled. The time of the sage. The girl looked at him sheepishly. He said he wanted more with Lydia. She said he could do whatever he wanted. The guy said that then he could do it. Morning came and Leon got out of the tub. The girl showed him the table and said with a smile that the food was served. She offered to eat. They had a little snack, and the guy told Lydia to listen to her. He asked excitedly why she was angry. The girl looked at him in surprise and asked what. The guy said she didn't seem to be in the mood. Lydia replied that, apparently, everything was written on her face. Lydia exhaled and said she wasn't mad. A little bit, there are things she doesn't like. The guy excitedly said that this is how it means. He understood. Leon said it would be good if she had told him, because he doesn't understand what she's talking about a little bit. Lydia smiled and replied that she wanted to clarify before that. The girl excitedly asked that they use her magic as usual. Here outside the tower. Leon replied that they also used it in a safe zone. Lydia said that the safe zone and going outside the tower are two completely different things. Leon asked if that was how it was. She said that if they were high-level priests and archmages, they can also use magic in a safe area. He said he didn't know that. Lydia said that research is still underway on the free use of magic outside the tower, but there is information that is not available to the general public besides live magic. She added that using white magic and black magic outside the tower is humanity's dream. That's why it's dangerous for guilds and aristocrats to know about it. What they can do for humanity. Leon asked what it was. The girl awkwardly replied that it was, so they should reconsider hiring support members. It has to be a person he trusts. She asked if anyone else knew about it. The guy awkwardly said there was a problem. She asked if there were any other girls he had hugged. It is very important. Leon awkwardly replied that he was hugging Rita and Maya. Lydia said that if it was them, then she could be calm. She asked him to keep quiet again, but Leon interrupted her and said no. He didn't show them his ability. He used magic with Maya, but it was in the tower. She asked if there was anyone else. The guy replied that he was still with Amelia. Leon said she works as a masseuse in a salon. Lydia asked if she was a masseuse. He replied that this was the partner he was with when he first changed his class to Sage. Lydia asked that they had met. Maybe she was his lover. Leon awkwardly blurted out what she was saying. It was the guildmaster who brought him there. It's a massage parlor, but not really. Lydia asked if he had used magic. Leon replied that he did, but he did not tell her about the sage's abilities. She was very surprised that it was possible to practice magic outside the tower. Lydia said she thought he was right. Leon said that the guildmaster said that she knows how to keep quiet. Lydia replied that of course, but she asked him not to spread it either. Leon said he understood. He asked her what she didn't like when he hugged others. Lydia asked what was wrong. Isn't that what men do? Her father had a lot of women, besides her mom. Leon asked what she didn't like then. The girl asked that he applied cleansing before going to bed. Leon replied that he thought it would be unpleasant for her when she woke up. Lydia said she was grateful to him for that. She added awkwardly that it just felt like she was being abandoned like a thing. That is, as if she was called dirty. Leon said that everything she said pleased her, however. Leon added that the time would come when they would take over the tower, and they would need to hug. Lydia replied sheepishly that yes, he was right. Leon added that different things can happen during the mission. The guy said with a smile that this is why he thinks ahead of time that he needs to clean everything up. Lydia replied sheepishly that that was how it was. The girl took a mug and drank some tea. Lydia put the mug on the table and said that so, when is he planning to go out to explore? Leon thought about it and replied uncertainly that he didn't know when yet. Lydia excitedly asked what was wrong now. Leon replied that yes, no matter how much they were in a hurry, the exploration would begin only tomorrow. Lydia came up to him and said that if he didn't mind, they could hug. A new day has come. The guy woke up and looked out the window. Leon thought that they ended up doing it until the morning. There are absolutely no forces for reconnaissance today. Lydia began to wake up slowly. The girl looked at him and said with a smile that good morning. Suddenly, Lydia cried out in surprise. She excitedly asked that he had performed the cleansing. Leon replied with a wide smile that his time as a sage was over. Now he was just a red magician. He would do his best to cleanse her body. Lydia replied that it was fine. She didn't mind. Leon looked at her and asked her what it was. The girl looked at him excitedly and replied with a smile that no, nothing. She handed him her robe and asked what he could do. Leon replied that it was fine. He was using purification. He thinks it's for the best. The girl put on a bathrobe and said with a smile that she would go take a shower. Leon replied that he was fine. He thought that if he came in, though, it was too early for that. Lydia came out, and the guy asked that they go out to explore tomorrow. The girl replied that yes, as soon as they were ready, they would check out of the hotel. Leon went outside and thought, well, the guy decided to take a walk around the city. Leon wondered if he needed to buy supplies or something else for tomorrow. Leon spent the whole evening shopping and returned to the guild at night. Finally, the day of the mission has arrived. Lydia and the guy met Leon. He said he was sorry he was late. The girl excitedly said that no. She had come too early. The girl pointed to the bag her assistant was holding and asked if he could take it for safekeeping. The guy looked at her in surprise, but did not refuse. Leon asked what it was. Lydia replied that it was a tent. It has an expansion of space, protection against penetration, and good sound insulation. Now they can continue their exploration without fear of anything. The servant bowed and said that he asked her not to overdo it. Lydia replied that yes, of course. He told Leon that he asked him to take care of this lady. The guy shouted with a smile that he understood. They went to the guild. Leon looked around and thought that Miriam wasn't here today. Lydia looked at him and asked worriedly if something was wrong. The guy replied that no, nothing. Leon thought they had two goals. The first is, of course, the improvement of reputation. Kill monsters and deliver lost goods to boost your ranking. Another one is to get the right to call the 50th floor as soon as possible. The guy continued to argue that he attaches more importance to the other. They came to the dungeon door. Leon asked what they were coming for. Lydia confidently replied that yes. They used a teleporter to get to the 41st floor. Leon thought that this campaign had two main goals. Peerless will enhancement. Lydia level 45, Leon level 4. Leon continued to reason that to improve his sage skill and therefore, the first thing they should do is... Lydia stopped and told him to listen to her. She asked confusedly that they would really do it here. Leon replied that on the 41st floor it is difficult to get in the eyes of people. She asked if they could be safe here. Leon explained everything in detail and said yes. Lydia excitedly asked what he had prepared for such a tent. Leon replied that even if someone suddenly appeared here and saw the tent twitching, they wouldn't understand what was going on inside. The girl said sheepishly, whatever it was, she needs to get used to this. Leon thought that unlike Lydia, who would soon raise the level, how to level him up, he raised the difficulty to the maximum from the very beginning. Leon excitedly said that he was asking for forgiveness, which was burdening her. Lydia confidently shouted that he had nothing to apologize for. She was ready from the very beginning. She took his hand and said that besides, the girl said sheepishly that she hadn't said no. Leon looked at her in surprise. The guy hugged you tightly and said that Lydia was amazing. The girl smiled at him. The girl told him to hug her tightly. After all, this had to be done in order for Leon to become a sage. In other words, you need to finish what you started. Leon replied that he did. They came across a monster after hugging. Lydia swung her weapon with a smile and hit the monster. Leon was fighting several small monsters. Leon came to the 43rd floor. He used his strength and said with a smile that there were no other adventurers on this floor. They have a little time. They can take a break. Lydia replied that she was fine. The sage's time of action is over. They came to a safe area and decided to set up a tent. It was really very big. They exhaled wearily when they had done it. They hugged tightly again to activate the sage's ability. They left the room, and Leon thought that they had reached the 49th floor in half a day. They fought until the end of the sage's regime. Leon went on to say that a lot had changed that day. He realized that there was an increase in the level. He received a water blade, mastery of magic, an earth blade, a wind blade. He extended the sage's regime. Lydia excitedly called the guy when he froze in one place. She asked what he had there. Leon replied that he had raised his level. The girl happily shouted that it was cool. Leon said that he had learned a new magic, the blade spell system. He couldn't believe that he had actually succeeded. Magic has 7 separate attributes. These are earth, water, fire, darkness, and spiritual power. All of them are combined into more complex attributes. The order in which attributes are obtained depends on the ownership of others. The girl said that Leon loves thunder. Then the next one can be anyone but fire. Leon confidently said that no, it wasn't. It looks like he has learned the blade spell with all the simple attributes. The girl shouted in surprise that he has gained full mastery of the attributes. The guy said that one of the first skills he learned while in sage mode. Is it a bad thing? Maya screamed that it was just unbelievable. Leon replied that thank you. He excitedly said that, in truth, he had also learned not only magic, but also skills, or rather, a skill. It looks like he was able to extend the duration of the sage mode. The girl turned bright red and sheepishly said that then they needed to check it out. She awkwardly asked that they could hug right now. Leon replied that he did. Leon and Lydia went on to fight the monsters. He used a fire blade and a water blade. He managed to deal with the enemies very quickly. Leon excitedly said that after all, when you get a certain attribute, you become stronger. Lydia said it was because Leon was hitting the opponent's weak points. If only it would be possible to attack with all attributes continuously. The guy told her that he has a multiple aria. By increasing the level, aria reduces the waiting time before magic is restored. Although, if that's the case, the duration of the sage mode is over. He said that the sage's regime was over. Lydia said that 2 hours had passed since activation. Leon said the time had increased by 2 hours. He suggests continuing the study further. He gets so caught up sometimes. The girl sat down next to the guy and said that they needed to do it again. Leon replied sheepishly that he did. They hugged tightly and the conditions were met. The beginning of the sage mode. They met with a group of strong monsters. Leon shouted that he was leaving the small monsters to her. The girl confidently shouted that she would do everything. She can handle them quickly. Leon thought tensely that he might try, even if he attacks the weak point of the Orc Lord with an air blade. However, 2 would definitely be enough to knock him down. He continued to reason that this time he would try to deliver 2 magic strikes, with different attributes. He shouted that he was summoning a fire blade and a wind blade. The attributes connected and went to the monster. The enemy did not have time to do anything, but only took a strong blow. The monster just burned down in a few seconds. Leon was shocked to think that it was incredible, like a flame. He received a fiery blade. Lydia shouted that he was just incredible. She asked him if he was weird what happened. Leon replied that he had learned magic. Lydia asked with interest that maybe he had raised the level. Leon shouted confidently that he wasn't. He learned magic without raising his level. He knows that for sure. The girl said in surprise that it really happened. She had heard that it was possible to do that. Leon replied that he had only tried. The guy calmed down and used the flaming blade. He thought it had worked. Lydia shouted joyfully that it was cool. Very cool. He's just amazing. The girl asked what could happen with the attribute of the earth. Leon replied that he would try. The guy shouted loudly, which causes a water blade and a wind blade. Attributes appeared and merged into one. They quickly flew into the depths of the corridor. Lydia asked with a smile that he had learned a new magic again. Leon hesitantly replied that no, the spell looked like a storm blade, but he hadn't learned it. He said that it could be. Leon excitedly asked that in order to learn it, you still have to fight. Lydia shouted joyfully that if so, then they should go faster to look for enemies. Leon made a new monster and hit it with a water blade and a wind blade. He has mastered the blade of the storm. He went to the next enemy and struck him down with a water and earth blade. He has mastered the water blade. Leon thought tensely that he knew that he needed to fight more to master it. Then what happens if he combines them? Leon used the storm blade and the water blade. He combined 2 moves and quickly destroyed the monster. Leon looked at him closely to make sure that everything went fine. He has mastered the thunder blade. Leon thought he couldn't believe it. He can learn magic without raising his level. This is only for the sage. The guy said that the potential of the sage's regime is simply immeasurable. Lydia asked what it meant. You can't create magic that doesn't exist. Leon replied that he did. He tried a lot. It seems that way when using attacking magic. He has something he would like to try. A group of monsters found a couple. Leon shouted that he would attack first. He trusted her with the rest. She replied that she understood. The guy thought that up to this point he had been combining spells. 3 one-part attributes. He continued to reason that thunder has the attributes of earth, water, and wind. A flame with the attributes of fire and wind. He used the thunder blade and the flame blade. Leon thought about what would happen if all 4 elements were combined. He looked at the blades and thought that he had failed. Suddenly, the magic came into contact with the monsters, and there was a loud explosion. Leon looked at the monsters, but saw no one. He thought excitedly that it had really worked out. He has mastered a new magic, namely the explosive blade that he has just demonstrated. Lydia picked up the material from the monster and asked that the sage was a rather unusual class. Leon said that she didn't know anything about the attributes of the explosion. The girl replied that she had never heard of such a thing. Lydia excitedly said that she only knew that alchemists make explosives, but they can't use them. At the same time, it can be used by miners, but even then, only within the mine. She had never heard of attributes being used in towers. Leon said that means for now that they have to keep it a secret. Lydia said with a smile that they had more and more secrets. He said that whatever it was, he was offering to try everything that could be tried. A guy and a girl have found a new group of monsters. Leon used to master the magic of the explosive arrow. The guy quickly destroyed first one and then the other monsters. He has mastered the magic of the explosive bullet. Leon said that even the skills are arrow and bullet. That's just the thunder and flame can't make an explosion. Lydia asked that it was of course an incredibly powerful attack, however. What about mana consumption? The guy replied that 3 uses of an explosive arrow are enough for 1 fight. An explosive bullet for 2 times. The explosive blade is only enough for 1 use. If he was in Red Mage mode, the arrow would only be enough for once. Lydia said that in that case, you need to check it out. Leon thought that's how they continued to pump. After they finished their raid, Lydia became level 48, and Leon was level 6. He also learned the curse of weakening the body spell. A couple came to the guild. The employee sadly said that she was sorry, but it was impossible to sign up for the upper floor. Lydia asked what couldn't be happening again. Leon thought that nothing had changed. He thought that even if he upgraded the Sage class, he would still remain a level 20 Red Mage. If it was an ordinary intermediate class with such a rate of leveling, they would be able to reach level 50. Except Lydia has a special class, and they barely managed to raise it to level 48. Leon thought that they would surely reach the maximum level of the tower soon. Lydia said that after all, if he chose a higher class, Leon said that they would upgrade her to level 50. Lydia asked if she could keep up with him. Leon confidently replied that everything would be fine. He had thoughts on this matter. He suggests they rest first. It's been 2 days since the last meeting. Leon stopped and said he thought he was here somewhere. The guy happily said that here, the very place, is the Lily Garden. He went to the gate and wanted to ask something, but they told him to leave. Leon excitedly said no. He has business with them. Suddenly, 2 swords were pointed at him. The girl screamed that there was no place for vile men here. Her friend shouted at him to get out of here right now. Leon was shocked to think what it was. The girls shouted that this was the base of the Lily Garden. There is no place for dirty men here. He has to get out of here. Leon awkwardly asked if they were sure that men were not allowed in. The girl confidently shouted that yes, of course it is forbidden. They poked the guy with spears again. Leon excitedly said that he would like to call Rita. That's all. The elf girl screamed loudly that he was an arrogant guy. It was forbidden to call the head by his first name. He had to stand still, and she was going to cut him down. Leon screamed in fright that no, she could stop. The girl with the ears of a cat screamed loudly for him to turn around and walk away. If he doesn't, what will she stick in his spear? He looked at her in surprise. Leon told him to stop. They can just say that Leon has come and he thinks she will understand. The girl said he was such a scoundrel. Suddenly, she excitedly asked what he had said. The girl with the ears asked what he had just said to Leon. The guy awkwardly said yes. She asked that he was an adventurer. Leon confidently replied that it was. She asked tensely that maybe he was also a red magician. The guy awkwardly replied that he was. The girls fell to their knees and shouted loudly that they were asking for forgiveness. They were very sorry. The elf girl screamed that the red magician Leon had saved the leader's life. She pointed her sword at this man. She deserves to die the most horrible death. She's so sorry. The girl with the ears grabbed them and screamed loudly that she had said such terrible things to Mr. Leon. She wanted to stab him, how low it was. They shouted loudly that they would not resist even if he hit them in the street. He can do whatever he wants with them. Leon asked in shock why they were so turned on. Rita appeared with her friends. She asked with displeasure what the noise was in broad daylight. Leon turned his head and shouted joyfully that Rita was here. The girl said with a smile that Leon had come. Rita looked at the girls who guarded the entrance and asked what was going on here. The girl continued to shout that Leon could do whatever he wanted with them. Leon was walking around the city. He decided to go to a small coffee shop. The guy opened the door and went inside. He was greeted by a nice waitress who said that he was welcome. The guy awkwardly said that he had an appointment here. The girl with a smile told him to go through. She asked what he would order. Leon replied that it was coffee. The girl brought the drink, and Leon took a small sip. Rita came up to him saying she was sorry for making him wait. She confusedly said that no matter how much she wanted to, she couldn't let him into the Lily Garden. Leon replied with a smile that it was okay. She shouldn't worry. He remembered how the girls had asked a million questions about him and Rita. The guy thought that it was simply impossible to talk calmly there. The guy said that the atmosphere here is so pleasant. The waitress came over and asked what Rita would order. The girl replied that, as always. She exhaled and asked what he wanted to say. Leon replied that he wanted to ask for help. Rita confidently shouted that it was good, she could help him. Leon looked at her in surprise and excitedly asked her if she was sure. She didn't even listen to what he wanted to ask her. Rita replied that she could not refuse to help Leon. The guy excitedly said that it might be an impossible request. Rita confidently said that he would not have asked her to do that. Leon said that's why he wants to ask. Rita asked with interest what it was about the research. The guy said yes. She asked him if he wanted her to go with him and Lydia. The guy shouted that yes. Rita asked tensely that he was serious. Leon shouted that of course. The guy looked confidently into the girl's eyes. He didn't doubt his answer for a minute. Although if you think about the number of band members, there will be only 3 of them. They will miss the 4th one. The waitress came up to them with a tray with Rita's order on it. The waitress put Rita's drink on. The girl told Leon that what if one of them holds a high position? Their combat power will drop by at least a quarter. Rita asked what the princess's level was. Leon replied that it was level 48. The girl said, "That's how it is." She did a good job. Moreover, if they swung together, their interaction will be at a high level, even without her participation. They've already managed to defeat the boss, right? Leon said with a smile that if she went with them, he was sure they would cope. The girl confusedly said that he trusted her so much. She's glad. The guy said he was glad too. Leon said that she willingly agreed to help him without even listening to what he would ask her. He can trust her completely. The girl blushed and screamed that she was asking for more. A new order was brought to her. Rita asked that even though the princess had already reached level 48, she had not changed her class yet. Leon replied that not yet, he would change it after the 50th level. Rita shouted with a smile that they had decided to become heroes. Leon asked with interest at what grade level she had changed. The girl said that she was on the 40th. Sort of. Leon thought it was level 40. Okay. Rita asked that he probably thinks she chose the wrong level for the shift. The guy shouted that he wasn't. The girl laughed and said that everything was fine. She thinks so too. Rita said it because she needed to act as a leader. Initially, she planned to change her class to 35. At that time, the leader and the elders helped her with advice. Following them, she decided to postpone the shift until level 50. One day, the previous leader was injured on the way and retired. Rita added that she was unable to fulfill her position. Therefore, by way of conclusions, the elders came to the conclusion that it is more important that the past leader recommend her for this position. Leon said that it turned out that she had to perform the duties of a leader. Rita replied that she had been told that she could, as before, perform intermediate positions. The girl said that she decided to act in her own way. She was often scolded for changing her class on her own. He remembered Maya's words that this girl didn't look like an adventurer. Rita was telling the guy something with a smile. She was laughing loudly, and Leon was watching her with a smile. He picked up his coffee mug and drank a little. Rita screamed, "That's for sure." Rita asked with a smile that then they would start the study the day after tomorrow. Leon replied in surprise that yes, it was fine. It will be ready tomorrow. Then, it's time for them to finish. They went outside. Rita waved goodbye to Leon and went home. Leon looked after her. He remembered how Maya had screamed that she really wanted to take her sister with her. The guy exhaled wearily. Leon looked at the tower in the distance and thought that they would leave this city soon. The guy walked around the city. He went into different shops and bought different items for the mission. He came to the guild. The employee handed him the letter and said with a smile that he had a message from Ms. Lydia. Lydia wrote that she agreed to cooperate with Rita. The guy grinned and said it was that simple. The guy looked around but did not find what he needed. An employee of the guild asked if he needed anything else. Leon awkwardly said that it was nothing. He left the guild and thought that Milliam was not there today. The laziness of research has set in. Leon thought that they had received permission to attempt to conquer the top floor. They will start with a complete sweep of the 41st floor. The guy shouted that go ahead. Leon, who is a level 6 sage, went on a mission. Lydia, who has the status of a level 48 knight princess, as well as Rita the armored level 25. Rita ran towards the crowd of monsters with a joyful cry. The girl hit the monsters with her shield with great force. The enemies were very badly injured. Her blow was very strong. Lydia ran towards another group of monsters. She struck the enemies with her sharp sword. Leon hit a strong boss with a sword. He managed to defeat him easily. Leon said with a smile that Lydia had prepared a mithril sword. Just incredible. Lydia asked him what he liked. He replied that yes, he would have no equal in strength. The girl shouted that they would give a beating here. Rita destroyed monsters with her hammer. She looked very happy when she was fighting. Lydia carried out her attacks elegantly. Leon dealt with the enemies quickly. They dealt with all the monsters on the floor. Leon thought that was how they got to the 45th floor. The first day of the study is over. They came to the safe area of the 45th floor. They packed a tent and decided to eat. Rita said with a smile that, after all, Leon's support magic is truly good. The girl looked very happy. It couldn't be said that she had been fighting all day. Lan asked that yes. So, the sage's regime gives her a strong effect. Rita replied that no, the effect is certainly strong. But anyway, the magic of support is very good. Leon said it was with her. Lydia confusedly said that she understood her. Leon's support magic is incredibly good. Rita screamed that that was it. The princess understands her perfectly. Leon didn't say anything about it. The guy said that, so in total, it turns out that they will sleep for 9 hours. They will be on duty one by one near the tent, each for 3 hours. The guy said they needed to determine the order. You need to choose who will be in the top 2. Rita screamed loudly that she would be the second. She has the highest rank among them. The girl added that maybe Leon would be on duty first. The guy replied that he certainly didn't mind, but for what reason? The girl blushed and said that she wanted to become closer friends with Lydia. The girl looked at her in surprise. Lydia screamed loudly, which is for sure. She thinks it's a good idea. Leon replied with a smile that he was fine. He doesn't mind. The guy told them to have a good rest. The girl replied that they would do so. It was time for them. Leon took a sleeping bag and climbed into it. He was sitting near the tent. The guy was already falling asleep, but Rita was already leaving the tent. She said sleepily that she was grateful to Leon. The girl said loudly that it was her turn now. Leon excitedly asked that she needed a sleeping bag. Rita replied that he should leave it. He said he understood. Rita quickly climbed into her sleeping bag and smiled. The girl said sheepishly that he was still warm. Leon said that he had only recently been sitting in it. The guy opened the so-called tent door and said he was getting the case to him. She replied that it was fine. He could rest. Leon climbed into the tent. He saw that Lydia had been asleep for a long time. He carefully lifted the blanket. The girl woke up and said it was shift time. The guy said he was what shift time? The guy said he woke her up. He's really sorry. She replied that everything was fine. Lydia looked at him and said no, she needed to sleep. He asked if it wasn't better to sleep that way. She said that either he could lie down with her. He doesn't want to sleep next to her. Leon replied that no, it wasn't. The girl hugged him tightly. Leon said with a smile that she was very worried about him. The girl covered them with a blanket and told him to go to bed now. Good night. Rita fell asleep outside the tent. They were in the tower. Rita yawned loudly when she woke up. Lydia began to get up quietly so as not to wake the guy, but she couldn't. Leon woke up and asked what was wrong. Lydia said with a smile that she was asking for forgiveness. She woke him up. Leon asked what time it was for the shift. The girl leaned over and kissed him. She said she had to go. Leon said it was fine. Leon turned away sheepishly as Lydia stood up. The girl stopped and said exactly what. No matter what happens, she will support him. Lydia continued to tell him to do what his heart wanted. Leon asked what happened, why she was so sudden. The girl giggled and said she would go. The girl came out of the tent. The guy thought hard about what that meant. Rita went into the tent. She said with a smile that he was awake. Leon replied that he was at the same time as her. He asked what he would make her tea. Rita replied that thank you very much. The guy made 2 mugs of tea and sandwiches. Rita happily said that there was so much honey, it was the best thing for tea. Rita ate a sandwich and licked her fingers. It was so delicious to her. Leon was watching her. He thought he couldn't. Leon shouted with a smile that they could go to bed. Rita replied that it was fine. They could do it. Rita and Leon were getting into bed. The guy excitedly thought that he couldn't sleep. He continued to argue that besides, the image of Rita does not get out of his head. Recently, only Lydia helped him let off steam. But why didn't it help? Rita quietly asked Leon that she could move closer to him. Leon turned around and asked in surprise what. She asked what was not allowed. He replied that no, not really. Of course you can. The girl laughed. Rita called the guy. He asked what it was. The girl said that this tent does not let sound through. He replied that yes, probably. The girl asked if he would like to hug her. Leon replied sheepishly that he didn't. She snuggled up against his back and said that she had already talked to the princess about it. If Leon agrees, that would be great. The guy thought that was what Lydia's words meant. The girl blushed when he said these words. Leon thought that through his heartbeat, he could feel the feelings of Rita, who had so boldly proposed to him. The guy looked at her. Rita said that if he didn't want to. The guy hugged her tightly. He thought that the conditions were fulfilled, the beginning of the sage's regime. Rita used to get drunk and fall asleep fast. That's just what to do now. He went on to reason that Lydia had said that no matter what happened, she would support him. So, even if Rita finds out about the sage's regime, they'll get over it somehow. Rita called the guy. She excitedly asked that she wasn't going to take him for herself. He understood. The girl said that right now she was only thinking about him. The next day came. Lydia told the guy with a smile that, good morning. He slept well. Leon excitedly replied that yes, good morning. He must have slept well. Lydia laughed and said that it was wonderful. Rita went out to them and began to warm up. The girl with a big smile shouted that she didn't know why, but she felt so refreshed. Lydia leaned over to the guy and said, "What about the sage?" Leon waved his head and thought that he had been able to mask his improved physical abilities with the newly learned body weakness ability. Lydia looked excitedly at the teapot in her hand. Rita sat down on the ground and looked at the food. She shouted joyfully that it was so delicious. They all joined her. They shouted that, "Bon appetit." The second day came. It started from the 46th floor. The monsters ran towards them. Lydia waved her sword and destroyed the monster. Leon used magic, and Rita used her hammer. They dealt with the enemies quickly. Leon thought that they had successfully continued to kill various monsters on the floor. At the end of the second day, their exploration on this floor ended. He continued to reason that they had entered the 47th floor's safe area. Except there were already people here. They opened the doors and saw 3 men who shouted that Lady Lydia was here. The girl excitedly said they were probably defense troops. Rita and Leon were standing behind her. They didn't understand at all what was going on here and why Lydia knew them. The girl asked what kind of defense troops. Leon realized what had happened. He replied with a smile that yes, it was Lydia's brother. They report directly to him, that's all. Lydia excitedly asked what they were doing here. The guys replied that they were patrolling. The number of monsters has increased recently. The girl replied that she was grateful for their work. It looks like they're not on her brother's orders. The guys asked that she would spend the night here. Lydia replied that she did. They shouted that then they would stand guard. She can sleep peacefully. The girl asked in surprise that they would do it. She excitedly shouted that she wasn't. They don't need to guard her. They can rest too. The guy laughed out loud and said it wasn't hard for them to stay up all night if it was for them. The girl blushed. She didn't know what to say. Lydia looked at Leon awkwardly and asked him what to do. The guy replied that then they need to accept their offer. The girl looked at him with displeasure. She wanted to hear a different answer. Lydia shouted loudly that we wished them a good night. Leon awkwardly replied that yes, good night. The guy felt the other guys looking at him with displeasure. He awkwardly thought that in such a situation it would not be possible to go into the same tent together. Leon was sleeping in his sleeping bag near the tent. Then came the third day. Lydia screamed loudly. Rita did the same. Leon looked at them excitedly and thought that these two were more bloodthirsty than usual. They came to a safe area on the 49th floor. They spread a blanket and put food on it. Lydia, Rita, and Leon ate and drank tea in silence. They all looked very confused. Lydia asked tensely that this place was occupied. Rita stared at the guy. Leon looked awkwardly at the mug in his hand and took a sip. Rita, Lydia, and Leon hugged together. They were in the same bed. Leon looked at Rita and asked that she did not want to go further with them together. The girl blushed at this question. Lydia smiled broadly and said that she would also like her to stay with them. Rita excitedly said that she was grateful to Leon and the princess. The girl looked at the ceiling and confidently said that she couldn't. Leon said that's how it is. Then, it looks like tomorrow is their last day. She replied that yes, most likely. The next day came. The guy thought he was on his way to the top floor, with Lydia, who has significantly improved her level since the last attempts. A much stronger bond between us. Even the boss didn't become a problem for them. They came to the guild. Leon wondered what was next. An employee of the guild said that Mr. Leon and Ms. Lydia had gained access to the top floor. They went outside. Rita asked with a smile that this was finally what he wanted. Leon replied that yes, thank you very much. The girl said with a smile that she really, thank you very much. The girl shouted joyfully that it was enough to thank her. She was having fun, too. She wishes Leon and the princess good luck. She held out her hands to them, and the couple shook hers. Rita screamed that it was good. Then today they celebrate until the morning. A new day came, and Leon thought that Lydia needed to get the title of hero and leave this city. Such demands were imposed on her by her brother. The guy continued to argue that the two of them had completely conquered the royal tower. Leon stretched out in bed and said that we finally got there. Now he needs to rest well before the decisive day. Suddenly, someone knocked. Leon jumped out of bed and said he would be right there. But who was it? The guy opened the door and saw a dark-haired girl he knew. The girl said with a smile, that good afternoon. Leon looked at her in shock and shouted that it was Amelia. He hadn't expected to see her at all. But what was she doing here? The girl said with a smile that, hello, Leon. He excitedly said that it was Amelia. He thought that he had only seen her in the lava, and therefore did not immediately recognize her now. He thought she was in casual clothes, a nice change. He asked what she was doing here, how she was doing. She replied that Gil, the head of the guild, had told her, but his full name was Gilbert. It confused him. Leon smiled and told her to go through. Amelia said, thank you. She excitedly asked what his plans were for today. The guy replied that he hadn't really planned anything. Emily hopefully asked if they could go shopping together. They came to the city and began to walk the streets. They passed the mime of many people. Emily grabbed the guy by the hand and took him shopping. They went into a china shop. The girl picked up the plate and began to show it to Leon, who listened to her with interest. Leon thought that, if you think about it, this is the first time he's gone shopping with someone like that. He looked at her and thought about how to formulate the question. He was watching a girl who was trying on different hats. Leon blushed and thought it was like a date. He got it right. They've been seeing business with each other for a long time. He's very excited anyway. They came to Emily's apartment. The girl said with a smile that she was welcome. She would start talking immediately, but he could sit down for now. Leon replied that it was fine. Leon began to look around the girl's apartment. He thought confusedly that this was Emily's house. It seemed so quiet and cozy. The girl was cooking behind the guy's back. Emily put a bowl of soup in front of him and said she was asking him to try it. Leon took the plate in his hands and said that thanks for the food. He tried and froze. The guy began to eat soup quickly. He shouted that it was so delicious. Emily said she had cooked too much so he could eat and not be shy. He shouted that he would have a refill then. The girl replied that it was now. Leon ate the whole plate and shouted joyfully that this was a feast, such a delicious meal. He put his hands on his stomach and patted. He was delighted with Emily's food. He really liked it. The girl took the plate in her hands and said with a smile that thank you. Leon said he could help. Emily replied that he shouldn't worry because he was a guest. She asked him if he would have coffee. Leon replied that he did. He said he was jokingly surprised at how delicious the food was, as if the chef had cooked it. Emily replied that she could make a living from it. Leon asked in surprise what she meant. The girl came up to him with a tray. She smiled and said that she had quit her job. Leon screamed in shock what she had done, and she could tell why. Emily sat down at the table and said that she had been thinking about it for a long time. In a few years, she will already turn 30, and she thought that it would be time already. Leon said that's how it is. He thought that meant she was much older than him. Leon looked at her intently. Emily said she likes to cook. Besides, I worked in a coffee shop when I was younger. She always wanted to become a restaurant hostess someday. The girl continued to say that a lot had changed, and now she was at that job, and then she started thinking about it again. She saved up some money. Leon replied that it was clear. Emily said there were workarounds, but she could finally fulfill her dream. She just suddenly realized it. She looked very calm and joyful as she spoke. She added that although few of her many peers are able to open their own business, people might think she cheated in some places. Leon asked when she would open a restaurant in this city. Emily shook her head and sadly said that it would not work here. If she opens a store, People might think that this is a special store, so to speak, like this. Leon jumped up and shouted that it wasn't true, but then sat down sadly. Emily said that she was thinking of moving to a city where no one knows her and opening a small cafe. It won't be easy to find clients at first, but she will try hard and eventually. The girl smiled and looked at the guy. She said that maybe she could make people happy with her cooking. She excitedly asked if it wasn't wonderful. Leon looked sadly at his hands and thought that Amelia was leaving. She's leaving for her dream. He wants to cheer her up, but then what should he do? The girl asked what happened. Leon asked why she didn't go with them. If they manage to clear the tower in the next campaign, they will also leave the city. If she hasn't chosen a place yet, she can go with them. The girl began to giggle and said why he was saying this to her, a child like him. He apologizes, but she needs a minute. The girl began to cry. Night fell. Leon and Emily were sitting at the table drinking tea. The girl asked him what he remembered when they first met. Leon replied that he would not forget such a thing. The girl awkwardly said that it became difficult for her to hug other people. She has no idea why. She might not want to be without him now. That's actually why she quit her job. She said she was in some distant city. She wants to start all over again in a distant, unfamiliar city. It is possible that she will be able to forget about him after a while, so she invited him to end everything on a pleasant note. Emily began to cry and screamed loudly. What then? Did she really have to ask her to come with her? Leon pursed his lips and thought it was clear. That's why he felt a slight pain, because she wanted to forget more than just the city. He went on to say that she wanted to forget that night. However, it is also an important memory for her. Leon said he would repeat it as many times as needed. Leon looked into her eyes and shouted that he was asking her to go with them. The girl looked at him excitedly and said that Leon was now offering such a thing. She said it sounded too casual with us. He didn't think so. Even if he was lying, he should have said, "Come with me." He understands what she means. Emily said with a smile that he thought it was his style anyway. Leon said he was sorry. The girl asked if she could really go with them. Leon confidently shouted that of course. Emily said that Leon had said himself that he would come with us. Leon awkwardly thought that was right. He needed to ask Lydia's permission first. The girl laughed loudly and said that he was really careless. Leon thought that then a new day came when he and Lydia went to the top floor. Leon and Lydia hugged tightly. The guy realized that the conditions were fulfilled. The time of the sage has begun. The guy shouted with a smile that they would go now. Lydia shouted that it was finally over. The guy thought that they would fight the boss. And even though there are only two of them, they are more confident than ever. Leon took advantage of the improvements in magic power, senses, physical strength, and defense. They met a group of monsters. Leon thought that they could use the power of the sage as soon as they wished. He used an explosive blade. He used his magic and caused a violent explosion that injured the monsters. Leon stretched out his hand and shouted loudly that he was summoning a thunderbolt. Leon injured the monsters with his magic ability. The enemy shouted loudly that he could no longer escape from Leon's abilities. Lydia attacked the monster from behind. The girl hit the monster with great force. She divided it into two parts and completely dealt with the enemy. Lydia looked happily at Leon, who returned her smile. Lydia hugged the guy, and together they jumped into the teleportation portal. They found themselves next to the guild. Leon said that they would finally be able to say goodbye to this city. The girl replied with a smile that, yes. Leon excitedly asked when they would leave. Lydia replied with a smile that they should think about it. She'll probably need at least a couple of days of preparation. The guy replied that he understood. He wants to ask you something. Lydia asked with interest what it was. Leon said when they would leave, he wanted to take them with him. Suddenly, Lydia stopped and asked what was going on there. They noticed a large number of people who were openly or trying to hide, but were looking at them. Lydia asked him if he didn't think they were looking at them. Leon replied that he did. A guy ran out and shouted that Lydia was here. The girl shouted that it was Ryan's brother. The guy put his hands on their shoulders and said that they had returned unharmed. Ryan said he says they got the right to sweep the top floor. He asked what they were doing. Lydia proudly shouted that yes, they have completely captured the royal tower. Just the two of us, incomparable, Will. People shouted in shock that they had captured together. It's just unbelievable. They can't believe it. The princess is just gorgeous. She's so strong. The adventurers went on to say that it looked like this red magician had found someone to join after the swords of the Wolf Fangs. All the work was done for him. He was so lucky. Leon thought that was to be expected. Someone said that it doesn't matter how strong the Night Princess is. It is impossible to clear the tower alone. He was told that it could be so. So the Red Magician was able to provide normal support in battle. They should make friends. Ryan said that's how, just think, they did it. Lydia looked at the crowd with displeasure and said that, by the way, the atmosphere in the guild is tense. Something has happened. He replied that he did. The guy went on to say what really happened. That's why he was waiting for them here. But they better report first. Leon replied that he was fine. The guild employees said with a smile that they had done a good job. She confirms the return via the teleporter of the upper floor. Full completion is confirmed. The rank of Leon and the team remains the same. She added that starting today, Miss Lydia receives the rank of B. The girl joyfully shouted that she had been promoted. Leon replied that he was congratulating me. They looked awkwardly at the crowd. The girl said something else. The employee went on to say that she had an appointment for their team of incomparable will. Leon asked in surprise what the request was. What kind of request? Ryan said it was a request to attend the duel as observers. The couple shouted in shock that it was a duel. Leon asked whose duel it was. The employee reviewed the request again. She replied that the duel between Mrs. Rita and Mrs. Maya was made of blooming flowers. Leon asked in shock what Rita and Maya were doing. Lydia excitedly asked what was going on. Evening came, and Leon went into the restaurant. The bartender told him that to think, they had a duel to determine the new leader. It's been a long time since this happened. The guy replied that the news reached him quickly. The bartender replied that the whole city was talking about it. They looked at the group who were discussing Maya and Rita's duel. Leon awkwardly said it looked like it. Leon brought the spoon to his mouth and remembered yesterday's conversation. An employee of the guild said that it would take place tomorrow afternoon. Leon was shocked when he heard the news. The girl added that it will take place on the first floor of the tower. Leon thought it was a duel between Rita and Maya. He never thought he would see this. He asked that Maya had challenged Rita. Ryan replied that the position of the head of the Lily Garden is at stake. Lydia excitedly asked why he would even get involved in this. Ryan replied that, of course. It's all for this little sister. The girl asked in surprise what was for her sake. The guy said that she probably already knows. He went on to say that the leader of the Lily Garden girls would definitely stand at the head of the flowers. If Rita, who was considered the strongest adventurer who infiltrated Queen's Tower, could eventually resign, Ryan looked at his sister and said she could join her. For him, this reason is more than enough to participate. Leon awkwardly said that Mr. Ryan was very protective. Leon asked what would happen if they refused to be witnesses. Ryan replied that he could handle it on his own. It was still a backup plan in case they didn't return before the duel started. Ryan asked if they could handle it. The bartender told the guy that he never would have thought that he would be a witness. All this mess with the change of managers. The bartender poured a drink into his glass and asked if they weren't fighting for him. The guy excitedly said that this was not the case. Leon quickly drank a glass. Leon thought that fighting between adventurers was strictly forbidden in the guild. Thus, particularly hot-tempered individuals will not cause riots. However, not all problems can be solved peacefully, which is why duels exist. The guy stopped in front of the entrance to the tower and continued to reason that they were taking place in a hall on the first floor of the tower, which is controlled by the guild for two reasons. Leon thought that the first was the adventurer's abilities and techniques. Class blessings should work as well as the second one. Suddenly, someone shouted that good morning. He saw Lydia, her brother, and another man. Leon said good morning with a smile. Ryan pointed to the stranger and said that this man would go with them today. He's a priest from his army. The guy added with a smile that he could heal any of their wounds while they were alive. Leon thought that no matter how serious it was, it could be healed immediately in the tower. Leon awkwardly called Ryan. The guy excitedly asked what exactly the witnesses were doing. Ryan replied that the guildmaster was responsible for conducting the duel. They must follow the instructions. They're all ready to duel. It's time for them to go. They entered the arena. Leon saw Maya on one side. The girl looked very determined. She was preparing for a duel. The girl was checking her clothes and putting on gloves. Rita was standing in front of the girl, who was waiting for the duel to begin with a smile. She wasn't worried at all. The crowd of people shouted loudly. Everyone supported their fighter. Leon looked in Rita's direction. The girl looked at him and smiled. She sighed heavily. She accepted the situation, so she tried to show that everything was fine. The man said loudly that it looked like the witness had finally arrived. They can read it. The winner will be determined if the other side loses or is unable to continue the fight. In case of Maya's victory, Rita will renounce the position of head of the Lily Garden in her favor. The man added with a smile that if Rita wins, this wish will be rejected. He asked what everyone was happy with. Maya replied tensely that she did. Rita smiled and said that of course. The man pointed his staff at Leon and said that then, on the orders of the witness, a duel would begin. The guy exhaled and raised his hand high. He shouted loudly for them to get ready. The girls got into fighting poses and gripped their weapons tighter. Leon stood in silence for a couple of minutes, and then shouted loudly for them to start. He brought his hand down sharply. Rita pushed off the ground and ran at Maya with great speed. She was very fast. She wasn't even hindered by a huge shield. The girl hit the hammer with all her might. Rita and Leon looked at her in shock. The crowd screamed loudly and waited for what would happen next. Rita looked at the place where Maya used to stand, but saw nothing. The girl appeared behind Rita. She crept up to her and pointed a dagger at her. Rita heard the rustling and quickly turned in her direction. She defended herself with her shield. Rita struck sharply with the hammer, but the girl quickly dodged. It was Maya's turn to strike, but Rita defended herself with a shield. Ryan looked at their battle and asked if they understood the situation exactly. He said tensely that as long as they were alive, any injury could be healed. But if someone died, then nothing could be done. Magic has not reached that level. Leon looked at Lydia and Ryan, who looked very worried. The guy thought that it was obvious that both Rita's Warhammer attacks and Maya's blows to the neck were quite dangerous. They're both fighting to the death. Maya began to attack the girl from different sides. Rita couldn't figure out where she was going to end up. The girl used her ability to mix quickly. Rita managed to defend herself at the last moment, and when she struck Maya, managed to escape again and again. She said with a big smile that she was quirky. The guys in the crowd said that the assassin girl was pretty good. It looks like the great Rita is in trouble. She's amazing at dealing with a barrage of attacks. He had not thought that she could move so fast in armor. Maya hurt Rita. The girl clenched her teeth in anger but did not stop. She had a fairly large scratch on her cheek, but it was not fatal. Lydia screamed that Maya had hurt Rita. She's just amazing. Leon replied that thanks to Rita's blessing of the armed warrior, even her skin has the protection level of chainmail. Maya's attacks must be very strong to wound her to the point of bleeding. Maya stopped and breathed heavily. She was sweating from her rapid movements. Rita looked at her intently, but she hadn't done anything yet. The guy thought hard. To break through Rita's defense, Maya uses powerful punches. Most likely, she uses several skills at the same time, which causes serious damage to her stamina. Maya exhaled and sighed. The girl gathered her thoughts and headed for Rita. Lydia screamed in fright that Mrs. Maya was disappearing. Leon shouted that this was not the case. He shouted that it was on the right. Rita was taken aback at first by this reception, but she quickly realized that she needed to be done. Rita quickly turned around and defended herself with a hammer, but Maya hit again. Leon excitedly shouted that she had disappeared again. Lydia was watching the girls intently. Rita tried to hit again, but the girl again evaded the attack. Rita complained that she was still not stopping. She looked at her body and said loudly that no matter how many scratches she left on it, she would not lose. Everyone looked at them intently. Everyone was waiting for what would happen next. Rita concentrated and heard Maya's footsteps. She turned abruptly and screamed for her to get it. She hit her with a hammer, and Maya screamed loudly. The girl flew to the other side and fell to the ground. Maya's friend screamed loudly that she had been injured. Rita and Leon looked at her in shock. Maya sat up and breathed wearily. The girl clutched her chest and coughed. Her friend wanted to run up to her, but she was stopped. The girl screamed loudly for them to let her go to Maya. She would help her. Ryan said that the situation was heating up by the second. It looks like it's time to announce the winner. Leon excitedly shouted that it was good. Maya whispered to him to stop. The girl tensely added that she could still fight. Ryan shouted furiously at her not to be so stupid. If she continues, she will simply die. Rita approached Maya with a hammer. She looked at her intently, but didn't do anything yet. Maya grabbed her dagger, but she was shaking so badly that she hardly managed to use it. Rita threw the hammer and shield to the ground. She said with a smile that she was such a stupid girl. She began to approach Maya. The girl looked at her intently. Leon and Lydia were watching them excitedly. They didn't understand what was going on. Maya shouted loudly for her to stay away from her. Rita grabbed her and held her close. She hugged her tightly. Maya screamed furiously and pointed her dagger at Rita. The girl asked if she really wanted her to leave so badly. Maya looked at her and started crying. The girl began to cry more and scream that she was very sorry. Maya dropped her dagger to the ground. Finally, their battle was over, and everyone was alive. Rita grinned and said that if she had apologized right away, all this would not have happened. Maya screamed that her sister could have become a hero if it hadn't been for her. Rita put her hands on her shoulders and asked who said she wanted to be a hero. Maya said that if they were stronger, they would be able to direct the blooming flowers themselves, and she would go on an adventure with Leon. Rita looked at the guy and asked what it meant to Leon, but it didn't sound so bad. Rita smiled at the guy, who flinched in surprise. Rita turned her attention back to Maya. She smiled broadly and said that she would stay with them after all. Her truth is dear, and the lily garden and the blooming flowers. Their team came closer. Rita added that this is why she wants to stay here forever. Rita hugged her and screamed that she was asking for forgiveness. She didn't know that Rita didn't want that. They didn't even think about it. Rita patted her on the head. Leon looked at the joyful Lydia with a smile. He raised his hand up and shouted loudly that at the end of the fight, victory was awarded to Rita. Maya's friend ran up to her and said she was all beaten up. The girl said it probably hurt. She shouted that the leader was too cruel. Rita replied that holding back would be rude to Maya. The girl shouted to the doctor not to stand there, he can already help. Maya has such serious wounds. He shouted that he was already coming. He began to help the girl. Lydia looked at the team and said it was a beautiful sight. Leon looked at her in surprise and asked, "What?" Lydia turned in his direction and smiled. The guy turned his attention back to the team and replied that yes,